Hello, I believe we're live. I am going to put on some spooky Pokemon music, and we are going to play a little bit of Buried, an interactive story. Actually, wait a second. Hold on. Check this shit out. I think we're gonna turn the lights down. Game stream. Game stream. We do purple borders. Where are you? What is this stream about? It's a spooky interactive story. It's old. It's an older thing. But, let's see, what? Come on, work with me. I think I have to... Yep, okay. It was just me clicking off of it in a specific way. We're gonna read some spooky stories tonight. A spooky story with branching pathways. As you do. I got some knocking around noises. I'm gonna turn up the music just a little bit. We'll just have a little bit of... minor bit of spooky. Spooky ooky. Alright. Alright, let us begin. Can't remember if this game actually has audio or not. I don't think it does. I open my eyes, and the first thing I want to do is scream. I'm flat on my back, and everything seems to hurt. The trees overhead look familiar. It's a clear night sky, almost beautiful. Except for the fact that this means I've been out cold for at least 6 hours. But there's something wrong. I don't remember what. But something happened, and my head hurts. And a ringing in my ears. Was there an accident? An explosion, I think. I remember Dennis screaming, but after that, I can't remember. As I sit up, I notice that my hard hat has been thrown off. I look around the area, but it's not here. It feels strange to go anywhere without my hard hat, but I've got to find the other members of the crew. They could be in danger. Crew. I'm going with the crew. I decide my hat can wait until I figure out what's going on. I get up and take a look around the logging site. I smell something burning, and I don't hear any engines running. Wait, something isn't right. What's the bulldozer? Maybe the damn thing overheated for the last time. Maybe the engine finally blew. What a mess. Well, maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. Only one way to find out, I guess. I walk over to the center of the logging site, and I don't like what I see. The logging site looks like a bomb was detonated right in the center. I don't know where to start. The one load we had managed to stack on a truck for the day is overturned, and the trailer bent and the logs hanging off the back. Where the hell is everyone? My head is killing me, and this ringing in my ears, I can't hear anything. Not birds, not my footsteps, nothing. It makes me wonder if I hit my head after my hard hat flew off. I run through a quick mental checklist to make sure my brain is still working. My name is Roger Hastings, I'm 41 years old, the year is 2017. I own a small logging company, and we've been logging in this strip of Kentucky woodland for almost a month now. Okay, so my brain works. It's a relief, but it also makes me fearful, because something is certainly not right here. I look around the logging site, my mind trying to figure out what has happened. Just about every piece of equipment has been overturned or tilted. We'll look at the truck. The truck. The hitch is completely broken, like it was blown off in an explosion or a really bad accident. Had there been an explosion, all the fuel on site would have started a fire. But there's no charring, no burning, nothing. I walked through the area where Dennis had been working. From the looks of it, he had been moving slowly. He'd only taken down 4 trees today. His metal lunchbox open, an indicator that he'd been taking an early break. But he's not here. No one is here. Where the hell is everyone? Jeez, I'm already... Am I pushing my voice too hard? I don't know how I'm... Sip of water. I could try to make a call on my cell, but the battery is already running really low. Not that it matters. The reception is crap out here. I'm gonna try anyway. I pull out my cell and try to make a call to Frank. It rings and rings, and then just goes to his voicemail. But before I can leave a message, my phone goes dead. Great. I hope I don't need my phone anytime soon. Might as well start walking. The highway is almost a mile back through the woods, down the gravel road we used to reach the site. Maybe the crew ran that way for help? Why would they have left me? Were they scared? Out of sorts? Maybe I can catch up to them. But with my truck turned over on its side, it looks like I'll be walking. My god, I can't even remember what I was doing before waking up on my back. Wait, what's that underneath the bulldozer? Oh my god, it's a leg. It has to be either Tony or Dennis. The dozer looks unstable, just like it might roll over some more. Might not be safe to get close, but at the same time, I can't just leave him there. I wanna look at it. Hey! I yell. Are you okay? Are you alive? I skip over the stray logs and wrecked equipment to get closer. Seeing the dozer teeter makes me think I should have grabbed my hat. I can see a bit more of the leg. The jeans are soaked in blood. I recognize the work boots. It's clearly Tony. His leg is bent at an impossible angle, nearly crushed flat. The closer I get, the more apparent it becomes that Tony didn't survive. He's dead. I'm not gonna bother with the body. There's nothing I can do for him now. I start to back away slowly. In my shock, I stumble back, suddenly tripping over one of the stray logs. I bang my head hard on one of the logs as I fall. Instantly, I can feel a massive lump forming on the back of my head. Damn it, why didn't I grab my hard hat? What hurts more is the realization that Tony is dead. Looking at him, I feel something rising up in my throat, and I don't know if it's a scream or vomit. I have to push it off. I have to push it away. If I lose my cool right now, there are too many questions that will go unanswered. Shit, I can't believe this. Tony. He had 2 boys. He coached his oldest son's baseball team. He was the hardest worker I had and one of the most honest and reliable men I knew. This isn't right. I can't stay here. I have to find Dennis, Frank, and Joe. I have to find out what happened here. As I walk through the stacks of logs from last week or so of work, everything feels frozen. This high-pitched sound in my ears. It's terrible. It keeps happening every few seconds, and it sounds like it's coming from far away. I can't help but wonder, is it my ears or is it something else? The silence out here is creepy, and there's a smell, like the atmosphere after a bad summer storm. I might as well admit it, I'm a little scared. Everyone is missing, and it's dead quiet out here. There doesn't even seem to be a breeze to rustle the leaves and branches. My right knee hurts like hell. My head was hurting so bad before that, I never even noticed the pain in my knee. I must have heard it, well, during the what? Accident? Or... Wait, is that Dennis? I can see him sitting on the ground, motionless, about 30 feet away. I'm gonna yell out first. Dennis! I yell. Dennis, can you hear me? Dennis lets out a shout, like someone waking from a nightmare. He then looks back at me from the ground. Yeah, Roger, I hear you, he hollers back as I head over to him. Dennis is built like a wrestler and has a tough personality to match, but in this moment he looks disoriented and even a little anxious. I'm glad to see him. The fear on his usually confident face is alarming. What the hell happened? What is going on? He asked. Don't know, the crew is missing. Missing? Dennis says. Where do you think they went? I'm not sure, I say, but it has me pretty freaked out. Something's not right here. Still sitting on the ground, he looks around the woods, as if he is just now understanding the severity of the situation. The equipment was overturned. The dozers, too, I say, wiping my forehead. You okay? I ask him. Yeah, just shaken up. Me too. This might be the most intimate conversation Dennis and I have ever had. Well, he and I have always been on good terms. We were never particularly close. I always respected him, though. Sure, he's come to work a few times looking like he'd been in a bar fight the night before. But I've also seen him do an enthusiastic impression of a dinosaur as he played with Tony's kids while they waited for their dad to finish up his shift. It's then that it hits me. Dennis and Tony were good friends. Not sure I want to rattle him with the news of Tony's death right now, not before we know what's going on, but he has a right to know. I'm gonna tell him. Tony is dead. Dennis's eyes fixate on me, startled. He was crushed under the dozer, I say. Dennis pauses for a moment, like he's trying to understand what I said. His eyes narrow and his bottom lip quivers. Shit, he says, and I can tell he is fighting back tears. He and Tony had been tight, almost like brothers. Hey, he adds quickly, as if trying to escape the reality of Tony's death. Did you see that light? No, I say. What did you see? I don't even know, Roger, he says. It was like this flare of white light. It came right up out of the ground, like an explosion. So there was an explosion, I say. Maybe it was some equipment, or... This was no equipment, Dennis interrupts, agitated. This was a huge ball of light. This huge ball of light came right up out of the damn ground. What did it look like? Like looking into the fucking sun. It just feels like someone stabbed me in the eyes with a hot knife. When? Not sure. But I had finished about 10 trees for the day, and I was about to top one. That's when it happened. You were almost done with 10 trees? I ask. Yeah, he says, looking at the ground. You know, I wouldn't want to take a lunch break until I was done. And that's when that light blew up. You don't believe me? I believe him. Ooh. He saw what he saw, I think to myself. He has no reason to lie about this. My God, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine, he says. But if I'm being honest, it scared me pretty bad. If it's all the same to you, I'd like to get the hell out of here. We both stand up and start heading towards the road. It isn't until we start moving that I see Dennis is wounded. His right side is coated in blood, the red seeping through his blue work shirt. There's splatters of it here and there, but also a very large red splotch that makes me worry. Are you in pain? I've been better. I don't know how much longer I can stay on my feet, he says. What happened? I ask. I'm not sure, Dennis replies. I must have gotten thrown or hurt somehow from that light. It's then that I notice the strange ringing noises still filling the air. Hey, I say, stopping. Do you hear that high-pitched ringing noise every once in a while? Dennis looks scared when I ask him this question, and he just nods. I thought it was just me, he says. He looks out of sorts and uncertain. Never seen him like this before. It's obvious that he's looking for some reassurance. Even though I'm his boss, there's something very unnerving about this. It's freaking me out. Is it freaking me out? Do we tell Dennis that it's freaking us out? Ooh! Both of these options are good. I wanted to lean into, like, being honest with the crew and, like, being generally cautious, but also, like, acquiring knowledge. I am freaked out. Oh, it's not probably nothing. But also we can't afford to panic. Ooh. This is actually... It's probably nothing. Let's be realistic, I tell myself. I might as well try to be empathetic. Out here in the middle of these woods, the ringing could be anything. Maybe a car alarm from through the woods or something. Still, even my passive comment seems to have reassured Dennis. He looks a bit calmer, more relaxed. Okay, good decision. We both start moving forward and don't say another word. Did you try to call Frank? Dennis asks. I know you had a cell on him today. I can't, I say, cursing myself. I used up my battery trying to call you earlier. It's then that I notice something that makes me stop. A 10-foot wide hole in the ground. But there's no stray piles of removed dirt or rocks. It's clean, smoothly dug, cutting into the earth. Wide, but only a few feet deep. It looks unnatural, like the ground was just deleted. No shovels or diggers used. Dennis walks over to it. This looks like the same kind of hole where I saw that light come from the ground, he muses to himself. I say nothing. My mind is spinning, but I don't know what to think. We need to get out of here, Dennis mutters. At that moment, the ringing noise carries through the forest again, sending a shiver down my spine. Dennis is right. There's something strange going on and we might not be safe here. But that ringing sound could be a clue to where the rest of the crew went. See, like, I kind of want to do the cautious ending, and because, like, I feel like Agreed, Let's Get Away is going to give me one of the endings where we're like, yeah, we're gonna call the cops, they're gonna discover the bodies, some people are gonna go missing and no bodies will be found. I know I've seen, like, an ending or two of this. So what's in the settings? Is it just, like, text size, beta test, newsletter, full screen, choice notifications, turn sound off? Get the soundtrack. That means there is music, and I'm... Shut up, phone. Hold on. As much as I like the Pokemon music. Oh, hell yeah, there's ambient shit. I think. Quickie. But it's only like, okay. I'm just gonna go with that, since it's in the game. God damn it, OBS. Let the thing run at the same time, so I can look at things. I want to look at the audio volume. The volume stuff. Look at the volume. Volume? The volume. Okay. So I'm going to try out the get away from here ending. Hell yeah, that's... You decided to avoid the sound. With that, we turn and start walking to the west in the direction that I'm pretty sure leads to the road. Alright. 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 It's sort of embarrassing. I've been a logger for nearly 15 years, but I'm finding it easy to get lost in these woods. The trees are so thick in places that the moonlight doesn't even reach the ground. It's easy to get turned around. My only hope is that I can find the overgrown dirt road that will lead us back to the highway. You sure we're headed the right way? Dennis asks. Pretty sure, I say. I turn to him and see that he's clearly in pain. It's at this moment that we come upon another of those smooth holes. This one is even stranger because a nearby tree also has a chunk cut out of it. The arc goes smoothly through the ground and then up through the trunk like a cartoon wrecking ball blasted through both of them. What the hell are these things? Dennis whispers to himself. He takes a step down into the hole, his boots creating imperfections in the shape, like footprints on a sand dune. I'll walk around the perimeter, inspecting the holes. I walk along the edge, each step sending pebbles down into the hole and ruining its perfect shape. I'm amazed at how smooth it is. Even rocks that were under the earth have been sheared to fit the spherical shape. But as I'm noticing this, I notice Dennis's feet start to sag. Dennis, get out! I start, but I don't finish. Before he can react, the ground is giving way and he's falling. I try to step back, but the fissure that opens up disintegrates the ground beneath my feet as well. I cry out in surprise, and I can barely hear Dennis letting out a curse as we go down into the earth. I guess we're going on aground anyway. Into the dirt! It's dirt time! It's dirt time! The fall isn't a long one, but when I hit something a few seconds later, it hurts like hell. The wind goes rushing out of me when I hit, and a sharp pain flies through me. What the hell? I say once my breath is back. Beside me, Dennis is slowly rolling over to get to his feet. I look up and see the hole in the ground where we fell through. It looks to be about 10 feet over our heads. It's completely dark. There's a small flicker of light further into the cave ahead of us, and a solid wall of rock behind us. It's like the only ways out are further down the cave or up through the way we came in. Dennis might be able to boost me up there, but with his injury, I'm not sure how stable he is. He might drop me. I don't want to put him through that. Leave him in the hole? No, we're sticking this out together. We're going into the cave. I decide we better not risk hurting ourselves trying to climb out. We turn to head into the cave. I take a closer look at the light further ahead and realize it's artificial. We both start heading toward it instinctively. As we step into the light, panic gently gnaws at me because what I'm seeing makes absolutely no sense. It's no longer a cave or a hole. It's a long, sparsely lit corridor. It's a massive corridor, in fact. It seems to go on forever. This corridor is mostly dark, with emergency lights every 10 feet or so. turn to my left and see that there's a door which appears to lead upwards to the outside, but it's locked tight. I push as hard as I can, but no luck. Dennis, help me with this, I say. He comes over and we both try to kick the door open, but it doesn't budge. For some reason, someone doesn't want people getting out of here. Looks like we were headed down the hallway. Quiet. I'm gonna play cautious. I feel like a ghost. Like I truly have no business being here. Dennis leans on me for support. We move slowly, our feet not making a sound. If anyone is in here, I want to make sure they don't hear us. We tiptoe forward as softly as we can. As I carry Dennis to the far end of this otherwise featureless place, I see a flight of concrete stairs leading down. I have to set Dennis down on the floor. His weight is killing me. Dennis, are you okay? Stop worrying, man, he says. I'll be okay. I just need a minute to rest. But looking at him, I'm not so sure. I can still hear the ringing noise every so often, coming from somewhere in here. I look ahead to the concrete stairs, pointing towards them so Dennis sees them. Can you make it down those stairs? I ask. He stands up slowly and is visibly making an effort not to fall back down. Yeah, he says. He sounds a little irritated. He starts for the stairs without me, and I have no choice but to follow. We approach the stairs, and just by looking at them, I get the sense that we're crossing some sort of line here. There may very well be no going back. Ever onward, I suppose. Down into an upsetting stairwell. As I head down the stairs, I notice that they look aged. That damn ringing noise is somewhere below, louder than ever. I feel like I'm walking down into the cellar of a haunted house. The light becoming scarce as the stairs take a slight turn. I feel the temperature drop. Dennis makes it a few steps down before he's leaning on the wall. He's breathing like he's just finished a marathon. We're gonna pause. I gotta give him a break. Dennis needs a breather. Let's take a break, I say, putting my hand towards his shoulder to help him steady him. Dennis lets out a sigh. Thanks. I don't feel too great, boss. As we both squat down on a stair, my mind seems to lock in on the unknown fate of the rest of my crew. Frank is married, and I've met his wife a few times, a nice woman with a huge laugh. My heart sags a bit when I realize I might never again get to hear him belting out classic rock tunes during lunch break. Joe, well, I don't know too much about him. He's 22 years old and is considering community college. His folks are deadbeats, so he's been providing for himself since the age of 16 or so. Maybe I can still find them, and still get to hear Frank singing in his deep baritone voice after a few too many drinks. After a few moments, Dennis says, "All right, let's keep going." We both stand up, leaning on each other. Excuse me. I have to make Dennis stay behind me as I stick my foot out in search of the next step. I can't help feeling like a child as a very powerful fear seizes me. I'm expecting a monster to reach out of the darkness, slicing into my throat. After what feels like forever, we come to the bottom of the stairs. We're closer to that ringing noise now. The door sits securely in the wall and looks just as out of place down here as I feel. A sliver of light seeps through, illuminating the area. This door has what looks like a panel with lots of labels and lights. Small embossed print above the panel says, Level 01 entrance gate, transport sector, and there's a button with no label. Inspect the panel. The panel looks like a diagnostic or alert system of some kind, each label meant to communicate some status. Lockdown engaged, experiment in progress, shutdown engaged. Those all appear to be off. But one of the phrases has a slowly blinking red light next to it, the only powered light in this whole thing. Abnormal entity breach. What the hell? I slowly push the door open when Dennis suddenly steps in front of me, taking the lead. Let's go, he says. I want to find out what the hell this place is. As Dennis walks through, that ringing or beeping or whatever it is gets a little louder. The door closes behind us with a click. I can't help but notice the wobble in Dennis's step as he lets out a grunt. You sure you're healthy enough to keep going? I ask. It doesn't matter. I don't want to be in the woods right now. He seems scared. Something I've never seen before. Angry, yes. Upset, yes. But Dennis is never scared. What did you see? I don't know what it was, boss. It was like someone had left a radio on, crackling. But we don't have any radios at the site. It was... I don't know. It was like something in the forest was moving. I give him a doubtful look, and he casts his eyes to the ground, frustrated. I know how it sounds. But I know what I felt. It was like walking into a funeral parlor, feeling death and gloom everywhere. I've been so preoccupied with my own fear that I nearly forgot about the ringing noise. It had just become background noise. We take a few more steps, and now I can see where we are. It makes no sense, yet another thing that seems simply out of place. The shapes and muted colors of metals are the shapes and muted colors of metal are easy to identify, but it just doesn't belong here. End of chapter 1. Respect the dead. You and 36. Oh, okay. So this is the chapter stuff where it's like, you and X number of players did this. Neat. Cool. So, somebody's upfront with Dennis about Tony's death. So I'm a little bit in the minority here, probably because, like, a lot of people would stream this, and then... What the fuck is wrong with my... I am floating off the bottom of my... There we go. Okay, I was floating off the bottom of the screen for a hot second there. I decided to play it a little more cautious. As it turns out, it leads us down to the facility anyway. Which, yeah, makes sense. I'm not sure if there's a series of pathways you can get that, like, gets you directly into, like... I'm not sure if you can escape it all, or if they just put you into the facility, because that's where the meat of the story is. Yeah, chapter 2, let's begin. We're standing on a thin platform of what looks like a fancy subway. The rails look well used, but not old. There are small overhead lights that are very dim, as if they're running on emergency power. The dim overhead lights are a blessing, but the size of the place makes me feel vulnerable. Staring ahead, the tunnel seems to be endless. It's almost dizzying. But there's a small light further ahead, and then a space that breaks the monotony of the tunnel's curved surface. Another platform, perhaps. Dennis, what do you think this is? Looks like we're waiting for the D train, Denny says with a deadly-sounding cackle. Also, the ringing noise is louder down here. It's much more solid now, and there's some other sound, something like the faint hum of machinery. What's your take on this, boss? You think we're safe here? Dennis asks. Not at all. This is what I think to myself, but I don't want to let Dennis see that I'm rattled. Well, he seems to be limping along much better than when we first stumbled into this place. He's still in rough shape. I'm leading him here. Should probably make him feel confident in that. I don't want to lie this time. At first reassuring him, like, I could reassure him all the way down, but, like, honesty, once we're in this deep, I think it's good to be a little more honest. I think we can officially say that we have no business here. I continue. If you want the truth, I'm a little frightened. A place like this buried under the woods, well, it just doesn't feel right. I feel like we've walked into a trap or something. My lack of confidence is mirrored in Dennis's face. If he wasn't uneasy before, he is now. From the looks of it, we can go either left or right. The left is slightly lit, the right, not so much. This makes me uneasy because I get the sense that one wrong turn in a place like this would have us wandering for hours. Suddenly I jerk my head to the right as I hear the unmistakable sound of someone walking. Did you hear something? I ask Dennis, my eyes straining to see anything in the darkness. Not sure, he says. Maybe. It kind of sounded like footsteps. I wait a moment, but the sound doesn't come again. So those are our options. To the left are flickering lights, indicating that we'll at least be able to see. It's also the hum of machinery, a sign of life. To the right is just darkness, but we also heard footsteps. I'm going left. Sight is important down here. Seems smart to stay in the light. Left it is. As we head left, the lights ahead are like a beacon in the dark, luring us forward. Someone left the lights on for us, Dennis says, trying to be funny, but creeping me out instead. I wonder if that's a good or a bad thing, I say. As we near the lights, I hear the hum of machinery grow louder, but it doesn't sound like any machine I've heard before. As light increases, I use it to take inventory of Dennis and his condition. While the bleeding seems to have stopped, the amount that is soaked into his pants and shirt is beyond alarming. How much further can you walk? I ask him. Can you keep going? Yes, Dennis says. Let me walk into the deep tunnel that has no business being here. Now, fully stepping into the light, I notice that the sound of machinery is coming from an area on the left side that is protected by a guardrail. Wisps of bright blue light dance on the walls as they leak out from whatever it is below. I also notice a posted sign that says, "Danger! Severe radiation poisoning threat." Curiosity kill? Happy Halloween to anyone dropping in. I'm gonna keep my distance from if it's gonna irradiate me. Dennis, I don't think we should get near whatever it is down there. Dennis studies the blue light a bit longer and then nods. He's hurting enough as it is. I don't think we need to add radiation poisoning to his list of ailments. Or mine, for that matter. We step away and take off down the tunnel again. As I start walking, I notice another structure coming into view up ahead. What could that structure be? I spit on my monitor again. Ooh, this looks like a terminal of some sort. As we head further into the tunnel, we reach another platform. There's light coming from the platform, but like the overhead lights, they are dim red emergency lights. I start to wonder if the explosion at the logging site caused a power outage in this place, whatever this place is. The ringing noise that I originally thought was in my head is getting louder. I'm starting to think it's some sort of alarm. Excuse me. When we come into the large open area ahead in the tunnel, it further resembles a subway station. As much as I try to ignore the reality, it's undeniable. We have stumbled into some sort of high-tech transportation system that is buried beneath the forests of Kentucky. It makes absolutely no sense and creates an entirely new sort of fear as to what the hell we have walked into. I notice that Dennis can't seem to stop himself from shaking. His fear is mirroring my own. When we reach the large opening, we have to climb over the rails and up onto the platform. I have to help Dennis over the rails and then up the small utility ladder that is bolted into the opposite side of the travelway. When he reaches a large open area resembling a subway waiting area, he collapses on the floor and lets out a heaving breath. "You know what?" Dennis says, exasperated. "This is ridiculous. I quit. I'm not going any further." On top of worrying about my crew and the madness of wherever we are, I'm not in the mood for Dennis to act like a baby. Come on, Roger. He's almost bled out. We're being nice to him. He's fucking injured. Come on. Take this easy. You can do it. I'm gonna be friendly and supportive. I'm not the one with a gash in my side, I think to myself, so I decide to cut him some slack. Damn right you do. Damn, boss, I'm sorry, he says. It's okay, I say. I don't know how you're still on your feet, if I'm being honest. Stubbornness, he says with a weak laugh. You need a minute to rest? I ask, as warmly as I can muster. No. If I sit down to rest, I'm afraid I might not get back up. Let's keep going while I can still go. I reach down, help him to his feet, and we get ourselves up onto the platform. Right in front of us, there's an entrance to a long hallway exiting the platform area. It's at this point that I realize those red emergency lights might be on for someone else who is actually supposed to be here. Quiet. 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 I'm still not sure if I want to alert anyone to the fact that there are strangers in this secret place. The thought of hearing a scream, even my own scream, in this empty place is too much to bear. The emergency lights continue to flicker overhead, casting a sick sort of pinkish light on everything. My mind is racing with what sort of place this might be. It's obvious that it's meant to be a secret. And if it is supposed to be a secret, and there was a power outage recently, maybe most everyone has been evacuated. This thought does nothing to make me feel any better as we walk towards the platform exit. We step inside and it seems just as empty as any other place we've come through, weakly illuminated by more overhead emergency lights. We're standing inside a hallway that looks surreal for a moment. Oop. Continue. Continuat. Oop. Beep-bop-beep-bop-boo. Hallway reminds me of a hospital wing, but there's something not quite right about it. And it's the first clean and tidy area I've seen since coming into the woods. Coming to in the woods. It looks like it was recently in use, despite the dim emergency lights overhead. There are chairs against the walls and the floor. There are chairs against the walls, and the floor looks well cleaned, as do the walls. The ringing noise is definitely coming from here, and a small flashing red light along the ceiling seems to flash along with it. That ringing noise is an alarm, I say, if only to confirm my own thought. But for what? Dennis asks. And then he asks a question that has been on my mind since we fell in that hole. What the hell is this place? We exchange a look that speaks volumes. We reach the end of the hallway and hear a sound like a large metallic grinding. This is followed by a clicking noise, and then the unmistakable noise of a generator kicking on. Lights? Camera action? Lights? 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 Hell yeah, lights. I wanted to, oh, that's why I... Well... Yeah. Okay. A momentary pause. Without warning, the facility jolts to life. The red glow of the emergency lights is suddenly replaced by bright white fluorescent ones. That mechanical hum is oddly comforting. Somehow the power being back on urges us on. It's then that I notice the ringing noise has stopped. So it had been an alarm. But for what? Just the power failure? We head down the hallway, the electric hum of the lights sounding eerie overhead. Other than that, the place is dead quiet. The hall is about 100 feet long with two main doors. One opens into a large room that looks like a conference room with a whiteboard and paper strewn about. Across the hallway, another door looks like a laboratory of some sort. Dennis slumps against the wall in defeat and lets out a scary-sounding chuckle. Something funny? I ask as a dark and brooding panic starts to grip me. Dennis just keeps chuckling as he slides down to the floor. I'm just gonna sit here while you look around, he says. There's a look in his eyes that reminds me far too much of a dead animal on the side of a road. Conference room. Show me the papers. What were they having meetings about? A large table sits in the middle of the room, lined with a series of chairs. It looks like something straight out of a showroom. A well-used whiteboard hangs on the wall, and there's scattered papers on the desk. Papers! Show me the papers! I want to see the papers! Most of the papers and printouts have codes and equations that all go way over my head. But there's also handwritten notes that don't make me feel any better about our situation. I read through them and see scrawled notes that say things like, last experiment failed, overdose before transport, levels indicate cellular catabolism, question mark, more lead shielding in export suits? More lead shielding in export suits? Measurements make no sense. Let Barksdale know about possible Higgs field fix. Excuse me? Okay, so for those that don't know, the Higgs field is like the discovery of the Higgs boson was a huge fucking deal in like particle physics a while back. It's like it's a gauge boson on the quantum level, and it gives particles their mass. So if these guys are fucking with the Higgs field, then that means there's some like dimensional bullshit going on, basically. Not quite, I guess. There's like an intangibility thing going on, like maybe they're like fiddling with it to make solid objects pass through walls or each other. And like basically turning off their mass, and also turning off their mass. I don't know, the whole concept of the Higgs field is kind of super heady theoretical physics shit, but it's like, for a while, the Higgs boson was called the God particle because it was a piece of the standard model of physics that had been missing for a while, and then they finally discovered it. And, fucking with it does not seem like a very intelligent decision for people who are made of mass and exist in space-time. I'm gonna look at the whiteboard. A few things were scribbled on the whiteboard, mostly formulas and names. But there are some things that are easy to understand, things that make my blood go... There are some things that are easy to understand, things that make my blood go cold. Subject number 6, cause of death. Embolism or aneurysm, or both. Ideas for a new delivery mode. Spherical, liquid, question mark, comatose state. Terracore company, possible plutonium supplier. Outside in the hallway, I hear Dennis grunting. I head out of the room to see him still seated on the floor, but I don't get very far because as I exit, a man comes rushing around the corner with an automatic rifle in his hand. Ah, shit, we've been found! I mean... hopefully he doesn't shoot us on sight. Hello, sir? It's hard to look beyond his rifle, but the man carrying it is young with messy dark hair. His skin is so pale that I wonder if he maybe lives down here. He has the look of a guy who's been cooped up for a little too long. Like me. He doesn't seem like the kind of person I trust with a gun in a stressful situation. He might be the only guy left to grab the gun. Sorry, Roger. As he sees us in the doorway, he screams and brings the gun up. It's aimed directly at my head. Hands in the air. I put my hands in the air, surprised at how natural it feels to go into this surrendered state. Maybe it's because this feels like a dream. Maybe it's because I feel like I'll snap awake if this maniac pulls the trigger. Who are you and how did you get here? The man asks harshly. Before we can answer, he continues speaking. I don't recognize you. If you're here, you would have had to sneak by the security mics in the entrance hall. What? I ask, unable to think of anything else to say. Who are you? The man asks. Did you do this? The man eyes us both, and I see something in his eyes that unsettles me. He is scared, but there's something else. We're just loggers? Talk about how you fell through the ground. His eyes look distant for a minute, and then he says, bullshit. But for some reason, I'm pretty sure he knows I'm telling the truth. Someone knocked the power out, the man says. It's back on now, but if it was out long enough, well, we're in a heap of trouble. Was you? Who sent you? Look, we don't know what you're talking about, Dennis says. Something happened out in the woods. Are you alone? Are there others with you? The armed man asks, thrusting the gun in my face. How the hell did we get in this situation? I think to myself. If we hadn't fallen into that hole, we wouldn't be here. I'm not really sure if we want to be giving this guy information. We don't know anything about him. Then again, he might have answers. Crew. I feel like if he's a panicked researcher, he would like to know that we are looking for our logging crew. We have other crew members that we can't find. Your crew? He asks, seeming confused. If this man thinks we're nuts, there's no telling what he might do. The fact that he looks a little crazy himself makes the situation even hairier. But how'd you get in here? The man asks. I point down the hall towards the subway. We came in that way. The doors weren't locked. His expression calms a bit, but I'm still very aware of the gun that is leveled less than a foot away from my face. Please put the gun down. I'm gonna keep, calm, level-headed, generally, but honest in this. The only way I'm putting this rifle down is after I've blown your brains out, the man says. With that, he sticks the muzzle of the gun in my face. It's a childish move, a playground tactic at best, but it's sufficient to show me that he knows he's in control now. He then levels the rifle at Dennis, and I can only assume it's because his wounds make him appear to be the weaker of us. The man takes a shaky step forward. Dennis looks back and forth between the barrel of the gun and me, his eyes pleading for help. Step between Dennis and the gun. I'm not gonna let him shoot Dennis. Before I'm fully aware of what I'm doing, I step out in front of Dennis. The barrel of the rifle is nearly touching my chest now. Both Dennis and the man seem a little confused at my action, and I do my best to swallow down my fear. I don't know what's going on here, I say, but we are here by mistake. Well, you have no business here, the man says. I know, fuck you. But now that the power is on, I think you might be too late anyway. For what? I ask, but he doesn't answer me. Instead, he steps forward and actually pushes me backward with the end of his rifle. The man then repeats a question he asked before, one that makes no sense, and honestly makes me think he might be a little crazy. Who sent you? He asks. You assholes from the Pentagon? I'm not quite sure how to take this question. Is this guy joking? No, what the hell are you talking about? No, I say, we're just loggers. Something blew up and my friend got hurt. We're looking for the rest of our crew. Likely story, the man says, but I see a flicker of recognition in his face that makes me think he might believe me. Still, his grip on the gun is as tight as ever. The look on his face makes me think he'll shoot at any moment. You both just stand still, he says. Sooner or later, someone will come along and I'll turn you over. He again thrusts the gun forward as if it had an invisible bayonet on it. There's no need for that, I tell him. I have no guarantee that he won't pull the trigger. Look, Dennis says, we don't want any trouble. We're just as confused as you are. Then in a movement so fast that I just about miss it, Dennis lunges forward. I have no idea how he is moving so fast. Just 30 seconds ago, I was worried about how close to death he looked. But now he's moving lightning fast, his left arm coming down on the barrel of the gun like a club. In the commotion, the man does pull the trigger. The booming noise is deafening, and there is a moment where I think I've been hit. Take the clanging noise of the round tearing into the floor at my feet to help me realize that I have not been shot. I look to the floor and see where the shot missed my right leg by less than 3 inches. I'm paralyzed. in shock for a moment as Dennis and the man fight over possession of the rifle. There's a fire extinguisher on the wall that I could use as a bludgeon, but I might not have enough time to grab it before Dennis is overpowered. Punch him! I'm going to support Dennis in this fight. It's 2-on-1. Dennis has the man pinned to the floor, but this isn't strong enough to keep him down. As I fall on the floor to help, the barrel of the rifle swings right in front of my face, a reminder of how close I had come to being shot. On my knees, I deliver a hard, stiff punch to the man's face. I don't punch someone often. Never, really. I'm not usually the brawling type. Still, it is apparently effective. The man's head snaps back hard and his grip on the gun loosens. Dennis grabs the gun and falls to the floor, clearly winded and in pain. Our attacker is immobilized and I can feel a shift in the situation. Yet, although he is basically harmless now, I feel the need to pummel him. A desire that builds with each second that I look at him. One punch was enough, Roger. Let's pull back. He's definitely out now. No threat. Or at least that's what I think. But he surprises me by mustering up one more swift kick in my direction, connecting with my forehead. My eyelid swells to the size of a grape almost immediately. It seems like this last attack is just more to spite me than to defend himself. I stumble back and I ready myself for another round of blows, but he just slouches onto the floor. He's done. Dennison instantly hands the rifle over to me, and I take it with shaking hands. I can't believe you stepped between me and that gun, Dennis says. He could have killed you. I was pretty sure he wouldn't, I say, although I had known no such thing. Still, thanks, man. That was some heroic stuff. You would have done the same, right? Dennis says nothing. His eyes look to the floor. Listen, it's a hard decision. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. What do we do now, boss? Dennis asks. I've come this far and I want answers. I sense that Dennis does too. I take a hard look at the man before I reply. We get answers from this guy. No answers, the man says. I don't have any. Next time I won't just hit you, I say, plunging a rifle towards him. Now get up. He obeys quickly, but his legs are wobbly and he leans against the wall for support. I can feel my swollen eyelid from where he kicked me earlier. I just hope it doesn't get so bad that it affects my sight. Okay, let's move, I say, pointing the gun further down the hallway. We've come this far and I'm not going to let this guy stop us. We walk down the hallway until we come to the end. A single elevator waits for us, its steel sliding doors larger than a normal elevator. Alright. Elevator. Wow. Before I get into the elevator with this guy, I think it's wise to learn a bit more about him. I can tell it's making him uncomfortable for me to have the gun. What's your name? I ask. Marcus. And you work here? It's clear that he doesn't want to answer, but he gives us a little nod. We're looking for the rest of our crew. Any idea where they might be? I ask. No, he says curtly, not bothering to elaborate. There's gotta be some useful info we can get out of this guy. I just need to know how to dig for it. I need a first aid kit for my friend here, I say. Where might I find one? Down on the 2nd floor, but we can't go down there. What's on level 2? He looks at me like I'm an idiot. You must be aware you're inside of a classified government facility, he says. It makes sense, but I want to doubt it. Well, I'm sure our government would want you to help save my friend, so take me to the first aid kit. I can't, he says. You don't have clearance. Hell, I barely have clearance. Then, seemingly to himself, he mutters, I make this place run. Not even a thank you, just a bunch of restricted access rooms that I'm only allowed to go into with a frickin' chaperone. I interrupt his monologue. We're going to that first aid kit. I could lose my job, he says. I wonder for a moment what sort of trouble I could get in for hitting a government employee. This makes me glad I took it easy on him. Then again, he had come at us with a rifle. It makes me think that things have gone terribly wrong in this place. The explosion in the woods, or whatever the hell happened, might be linked to it all. I need to convince him to take us to the 2nd floor. But I am not sure if it would be more productive to threaten him or ask for sympathy. I want to be nice. I'm, playing nice. But, Marcus is kind of a brat. I'm gonna ask for help. I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna stick to the bit. Commit to the bit. Look, I say, it hasn't been the best day. We're just trying to find out what's going on, to find our crew, to survive. I know that this isn't a normal situation down here. It looks like all your protocols have been blown to hell. Can't you help us out? He looks at me sternly, weighing his options. Okay, he says. Thank you, I say, With an untrusting stare, Marcus walks to the elevator door, approaching a small keypad by the doors. He punches in a numerical code on the keypad, and we can hear a slight mechanical hum behind the steel doors. After a few seconds of angry glances and frightened sneers from Marcus, the elevator arrives. The steel doors slide open with a whisper, revealing the interior. Inside the elevator! It's exceptionally well lit, and looks to be made of stainless steel. I half expect the thing to take off at the speed of light. There's another small keypad on the front right panel by the door with the options for 3 sub-level floors. Looks like this elevator doesn't go to the surface. So after we get a first aid kit for Dennis, how do we get out of here? I ask. We can't leave, Marcus says. Once the power came back on, the whole place was put on lockdown. What? I shout. Can't you override it? No, it's to prevent anything from getting out. I can't. Marcus looks as deflated as Dennis. We can't get out. We're stuck here. Dennis leans into the corner and almost falls onto the floor. The struggle for the rifle took a lot out of him. I could see that much on his face. Slowly, we start to move down. The hum and grind of the car's motors fill the space. What can you do? Marcus bristled at the question, but I think it's fair. I mean, he's not allowed to unlock the doors or even get medical supplies. Why keep a guy around who can't even grab a Band-Aid without permission? Without me, nothing would get done here, Marcus answers me. These people think they're so brilliant, but some of them can barely turn their computers on without help. Oh, no. The top coder in my class at MIT, and I'm stuck living underground helping idiots who don't even trust me with keys. What goes on here? Sounds like the scientists patronize him. Marcus shakes his head. You may as well shoot me. I can't tell you. Why not? It is beyond classified, and the things I know don't even cover the start of it. What does that mean? I ask, as I started to get irritated. It means that even if I wanted to tell you what sort of work is done here, I don't know enough about it. What is your job? Tell me about your job, Marcus. I handle the IT work and make sure the databases are up and running. It's a 24/7 job. I haven't seen the sunlight in almost a year. Poor dude. I wonder what staying in a place like this for that long would do to someone's mind. If you're doing remote indoor work, I mean, it's not remote, he's on site. The sunlight's important. It's nice to be above ground and have a window nearby. I was recruited, he continues. Because of the workload, no one else wants this job. But I don't really mind being by myself. No family. Plus the IT, it's some crazy shit. Crazy how? I ask. This place generates over 100 terabytes of data per day, he answers, getting the slightest bit excited before his face falls again. What happened here? Seems like some sort of power outage, Marcus says. That's all I know. There was an outage and then what? Dennis asks weakly. Then things got weird. Things got bad. Bad how? I ask. The whole place seemed to shake when the lights went out. I was checking the monitors when it happened, and everything went dead. It took no more than a minute or so before I started hearing the screams. People were being killed by something. I tried getting the security cameras going again, but they only lasted for a little bit on my backup systems. But what I saw... What? I ask, feeling a sharp fear worm its way into my guts. Hell, what I saw on the screens for that little bit of time made no sense. Made me get the gun from the emergency vault. I think whatever it is, it's still down here. Hold on, I say. There's an emergency vault with a rifle in the same room as the security cameras in this place? Marcus gives me a grin that looks nearly insane. There are guns locked away in every room in this place. Just in case. So, you know? Just in case of what? As he opens his mouth to answer, the elevator comes to a stop. Ah, boo! And the doors slide open. Marcus is out right away without a word. Just things. Just in case of things. He makes his exit. He makes his exit and heads directly for a glassed-in room that is filled with computer monitors and high-end equipment. Dennis and I file out behind him, trying to keep up. As we do, one very alarming question runs through my head. What the hell kind of government facility keeps loaded guns in emergency vaults in every single room? End of chapter 2. Curiosity. Obeyed the warning sign. Stayed away from the glow. Ooh, 64% of people stepped between Marcus and Dennis. 65% of players showed mercy to Marcus. Huh, okay. I think... Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm going to play this twice tonight. I think I'm just going to do only one run through. But, I think I might do another run through at some point where I play Curiosity Kills the Cat mode. Just, like, stick my nose into everything. We follow Marcus into what I can only describe as a control room of sorts. There are countless computer screens, some of which are obviously coming back on from having been shut off. Everything looks extremely complicated, from screens filled with code and data to what is obviously a security system. It reminds me of a miniaturized version of the operations center in just about every space travel movie I've ever seen. Marcus is running from one screen to another, apparently looking for some pertinent bits of information. Where's the first aid kit? I snap at him. Marcus stops in his tracks, as if he had forgotten the whole reason for bringing us down here. Oh, yeah, he says, rushing to the left side of the room. There, he hunkers down by an open panel in the wall, what I assume is the emergency vault, from where he got the rifle. Look, the vault. I want to see what we're working with. I like to look at the monitors, but... Vault. I peer over Marcus' shoulder into the vault he's opened. It's much larger than it looks from the outside. It's partially filled with file folders marked classified, a few rounds of ammo for the rifle, a peculiar plastic kit filled with syringes, and a locked black box. As Marcus digs around, one of the folders slips open. For the split second it's open, I see a scanned document and a color photo. The photo shows a male corpse with its guts on the outside of its body, as if it had been turned inside out. There's also massive swelling on his head, almost like his skull is about to explode. Marcus slaps the folder closed, and then I turn my attention to one of the syringes. It's filled with a violet-colored fluid that, while rather pretty in color, looks deadly. Marcus finally pulls out the first aid kit and turns around. When I go back to motion Dennis over, he's paler than ever. Come on, I tell him, but he's not moving from the place on the floor where he sits against the wall. I slide the first aid kit over to him and go scrambling to his side. Between the struggle for the rifle upstairs and arriving in this room, he's faded fast. I struggle to lift his shirt up and over his shoulders as the dry blood holds it in place. The mere act causes him to grimace. This might hurt a little, I tell Dennis. He only nods. He doesn't seem to care. We're gonna just peel it off of him. I'm gonna take our time. I lift the shirt off gently and it makes a sucking sound. There's so much blood that moisture tries to keep the shirt pulled to him. Dennis lets out a little moan, but seems to relax in spite of his injuries. With the shirt fully removed, the extent of his injuries becomes more clear. His wound is more visible now, although it's partially hidden by the blood that has started to clot around it. My medical knowledge is slim. Basically just a bunch of basics I learned in Boy Scouts. I looked over to Marcus, hopefully, and asked, "You have any training?" "Zero," he says. "Sorry." It's just as well, I guess. He's far too concerned with what's happening on the monitors to be of much help anyway. I start by taking out several rolls of gauze within the kit and wipe as much blood as I can away from the wound on his side. It's even worse than I had figured from the start. The gash is deep and dark. I'm pretty sure it's infected, too. He's gonna need stitches, that's for sure. But I have no idea how to even start that. It's just sewing, dude. Like, it's not that hard. You put the thread in the needle, you, like, tie a knot to the long end, and then you sew it like a piece of cloth. You put the skin back together. That's how you do stitches. In an emergency, you just need to know how to, like, hand sew. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you are, like, out in the wilderness and you are unlikely to get to, like, a medical professional in time. Like, I'm talking, like, a matter of days. If you can get to a medical professional in the same day, you should let them do the stitches. But, like, the skin is skin. If there is enough skin left, you can, in fact, put it back together. And also gauze helps. Also, nowadays, they use surgical glue. Like, I had a surgery back in January. And they didn't stitch me. It was appendicitis. So my appendix is stapled shut, and they use titanium for, like, internal metals because it, like, bonds well to human flesh. And the stitches I got on the wounds, where they had to stick stuff into me, 2 of them were glue, and I had a pouch in me for like a week, and they pulled that out at the end. It was a very bizarre experience. And, that actually closed on its own. They, like, pulled the tube out, and they, like, didn't even stitch it shut. They just, like, put a thick pad of gauze on it, and, like, within a day, it had slorped closed. It's amazing what the human body can do to heal. Okay, back to the story. He's far too conservative. Went off on a tangent there. I have no idea how to even start that. Besides, I don't see the tools for it in the kit. Yeah, if you don't have a needle and sutures, then you're not going to be able to do those stitches, unfortunately. It is easy, but you do need the medical sutures. When I splash rubbing alcohol over the wound, he responds with a hoarse yelp of surprise, but nothing more. His eyes are locked on me, and he looks appreciative, but he's also scared. Be honest, Dennis says hopefully. How bad does it look? You think I'll live? It's fine, don't worry about it. I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna pretend it's not bad. Like, it's bad, but, like, we're gonna be fine. For a certain measure of fine. Good to know, he says, because I sure don't feel like that. You've been through hell, I say. I think it feels worse than it actually looks. Thanks. That's a relief. I won't lie. You're gonna have a scar, I say, trying to be funny. He chuckles a bit, but there's no humor in it. He rests his head against a wall and closes his eyes as I finish up. I place 1 layer of gauze against the wound and bind it with medical tape. I then reinforce it with a 2nd layer. I know it's meager, but it's all I can do. Thanks, Roger, he says, actually managing to force out a smile. I feel a lot better. I think I'll be fine. I'm not so sure about that, but I'm glad I was able to encourage him. Like, if you can get the skin close together, like, without stitches, like, if you can get the gauze over it, and, like, with medical tape, I know that's to keep the gauze down, but if you can also use that to kind of, like, hold that part of the body together, you might, I don't actually know. I'm not a medical professional. I am not, I have the experience of being cut open. I do not actually know how to cut people open and put them back together, unfortunately. I have been under the knife. I have not wielded it. I'm not so sure about that, but I was glad I was able to encourage him. Finally, I patch up the bruises on my head a bit, cursing myself again for not grabbing my hard hat. Ooh, maybe my next playthrough I'll grab the hard hat. Finally, I look back to Marcus, and he's looking back at us, deep in thought. My eye is starting to really swell up from where he kicked me earlier. Maybe I shouldn't have let him off so easy. Ooh, stop making me doubt my choices, game! Are these first aid kits all you have in this facility? I ask him. If there's something better, I don't know about it, he says. I notice then that his defensive posture is no longer there. Something is different now. Just a slight change to his demeanor. He's seen something on those monitors that has him frightened. More than he already was before. What is it? I ask. What's wrong? His eyes travel around the room, and it's obvious that he's trying to decide whether or not to tell me the truth. I'm looking at the monitors myself. He's not going to tell me. Rather than wait for him, I get up and scan the screens behind him, seeing if I can find any clues that I missed moments ago. After a few moments, I see a few things that even I can comprehend hidden in the complex information on most of the screens. On one screen, I see what looks like a power meter that is slowly climbing upwards. Good. A single message is flashing beneath it. It reads, Unexpected power failure. Foreign entity. Another message trickling along the bottom of the black screen says, Safety locks on level 3 containment doors engaged. Override? I see still scenes on a few other screens that I assume are security cameras showing hallways and passages from elsewhere in the facility. One of them shows the first level hallway we were on just a few minutes ago. Another shows a hallway I don't recognize. The floor is covered in blood. From just off the screen, I see what I think might be a human body, but it's bent in an impossible way. Looks like the body's legs and torso have somehow been merged or melted into the floor. What happened to that person there? Tell me. I have no idea. I didn't see it, he says. Whatever happened to that guy must have happened in the last minute or so. What the hell? I ask. There's something still happening? Are we still in danger? He turns away, clearly fearing he has already said too much. And as bad as that is, there's a scene on the other monitor that makes my blood go cold and my fear spike to levels somewhere near terror. The The scene is very familiar. It's the logging site. The equipment is unmistakably mine. I can even see my truck. Something like fury starts to rise up in my guts, momentarily pushing aside the fear. For a moment, I consider just tearing into him. A few punches and a shove against the wall, nothing more. I want answers, and I want them now, but I'm not sure what would provide more answers. Asking calmly, or kicking his ass. I'm being nice, guy. This is nice Roger playthrough. Could you please explain to me why you've been spying on my crew? Being passive-aggressive also works. My anger is prodding at me and I have to hold it back again. It's near the surface, demanding a release. It was a part of my job, mine and a few others. Your crew has been watched ever since you set up your equipment. Why? Because you're working with heavy equipment, some of which digs into the ground, less than a mile from a secret government facility. I had no idea of that, I say. How could I have known? Marcus gives me that same crooked, trembling smile that is beginning to creep me out. Because those things would draw attention to this place, he says. You have no idea how secretive this facility is. Besides, I know that the higher-ups looked into it. Your site isn't on government land. It's shy by about 300 yards. Every piece of your equipment is on private property. The timber tract you purchased from Mr. Gladstone 2 months ago. So even if we wanted to intervene and keep your crew away, we couldn't have without stirring up a fuss. The fact that someone with such a low-level clearance knows this much about my logging crew is unnerving. If you've been watching us, why didn't you recognize us when we met in the hallway? I ask. He shakes his head and exhales, like it's obvious. The cameras have a bird's eye view. I can't see faces. We just track the bodies and names. Ask calmly. This is nice, Roger. So since you have all this surveillance, do you know where the rest of my crew is? I do my best to keep my voice level, even though my impulse is to shout. Well, Marcus says, all of you were on the site as usual before the incident. It had been a few hours since I checked, though. They might have come near the facility, or maybe not. I don't know. He says this casually, like it's not important. Next playthrough, I'm gonna put my fist through your smug little face, Marcus. Well, are they inside the facility? I ask. You have cameras everywhere, right? Do you see them? Marcus shakes his head. I've been looking all over and I haven't seen your crew. They aren't here. But, he adds, the lower levels don't have any cameras. Classified. I'm not sure how they would have gotten there, but it's a possibility. I'm still shocked that we were being watched. Do they know everything about us? I'm telling you, Marcus said, the depth of influence in this facility goes deep. There are 36 employees down here. Outside of those employees, only 5 other people know this place exists. Calmly. Keep it together, Roger. What do all these people do here? I ask, keeping my voice level. He doesn't even pause to consider if he should go any further. He actually laughs when he gives me the answer. I honestly don't know everything. Probably very little, but what I do know is that it's more than Black Ops. What does that mean? I ask. There are scientists here who have been disowned by their own governments because of the nature of their work. You get it now? I don't. Not at all. But I don't want him to know about that. You said there are 36 employees, I say. Where are they now? He shakes his head. As far as I know, everyone else is gone. Gone where? He points to the screen that still informs us of the unexpected power failure and cringes. If this power failure was not corrected in time, there's no telling. But they're here in the facility somewhere, right? I ask, hoping someone will be able to help Dennis better than I can. I just don't know, Marcus says. They could be anywhere. Look, I say, furious with the way he is talking in riddles. I don't... God. I look over to him and Dennis says. I look over to him and he's pale as a ghost. He's stood up and his eyes are locked on the monitor closest to him. What? I ask. He simply points to the monitor and then looks away. I look to the monitor and see the logging site. But more specifically, I see the overturned dozer and the legs sticking out from under it, wearing work boots. Right where I left him. Tony. The fact of his death seems abstract, almost like it happened in some other world or a very long time ago. I know that you already told me he was gone, Dennis whispers, but it's different actually seeing him. My God. I'm glad I told him about him if he was going to find out this way. I'd rather him hear it from me than that. Suddenly something blazes by the open door outside. The shape is fastened in shadow, but I'm pretty sure it's a person. Someone else is here, Marcus says, wheeling around. He sounds very happy to discover this, so I try to follow his lead. If something bad happened at this facility, then surely the sight of another survivor is a good thing, right? We should check it out, he says. I realize this isn't the best moment to leave Dennis, after revisiting Stoney's death all over again. Someone just ran by the door, I tell him. Hopefully, It's going to be someone who can help us. I had a hunk of mucus hanging in the back of my throat that was making talking feel weird. I think I have dislodged it. I'm gonna be nice. You gonna be okay? It's fine. Go see who it is, he says, giving me a mock thumbs up. I turn to Marcus and motion for us to head out to investigate. Let's be careful, Marcus says. Depending on who it is, they might not be as hesitant to shoot a stranger as I was. I nod at him as I head for the door. Excuse me. I'm still holding the rifle in my hand, and I don't know if I have the guts to actually use it if needed. With a final look back to Dennis, I run out into the second-level hallway. Marcus follows. There's still fear in his eyes, but also the slightest glimmer of hope. That hope is contagious. We take off after that figure that just ran past the command center. Ahead of us, the facility presents yet another long hallway. Right away, I notice that this level of the facility seems darker, even though the lights are now all on. The hallway is adorned with numbered yellow doorways and large white panels along the walls. It's clean and well-maintained, but there's something ominous about it. Up ahead, I see the fleeting motion of something dark cutting quickly to the left, down a corridor. There, I say, quietly, pointing up ahead. Marcus gives a nod, and we continue chasing after the person we saw blaze by the command center just moments ago. It then occurs to me that this person could be like Marcus at first, armed and scared. Slow. If you shout at them, they will wheel around and shoot. When we reach the intersection in the hall, where I see the shadow moving, I ease around the corner just in case. Sure, I have the rifle in my hands, but I don't want to use it unless I have to. Save your rounds. I quickly dart around the corner and take the same shooting stance I've seen in countless times on TV. There's a woman standing there, about 10 feet away. She has reddish blonde hair and a small mousy build. She looks terrified and is visibly shaking. She's probably in her late 30s, wearing a lab coat with dark jeans and green Converse low tops. I have a strange sense that her fear is not just about her sudden appearance. She looks like a woman who's been running scared for a while now. Her hands are raised in surrender. She's not holding a weapon. Sip of water. Marcus slowly approaches, taking a few steps ahead of me. It's Amy, right? She blinks, seemingly surprised that he knows her name. Yes, and you're Marcus. She nods absently and then looks to my rifle. I'm not going to use it. She's harmless. Apparently. Now, how do I know that? She asks. You're trespassing on government property in the midst of a huge catastrophic event, and you have a rifle. How am I supposed to believe you? I have a friend back in the command center who needs medical attention, I say, and we're looking for the rest of our crew. I'm really sorry, but I don't know where they are, she says. Do you know what's happened? Marcus asks. From the power outage? I don't know what caused it, she says, but there was an experiment taking place when the outage occurred. Something happened, and... She trails off here, giving me a look of distrust. I saw things on the security monitors, Marcus says. The experiment failed, didn't it? I don't know the specifics, Amy says. I barely escaped the third floor. I was going to the command center to see if the security footage showed anything, but then I saw you and the gun. Listening to their conversation, I'm feeling totally in the dark. Tell me about the experiments! Amy looks to me, her eyes wide and terrified. Who are you, anyway? I quickly give her my story. A logger stranded in the woods following a peculiar explosion at the logging site. As I tell her, recognition blooms in her eyes. You're one of the loggers? Yes. She then looks to Marcus and says, I thought they were being watched. They were, Marcus says. This was a freak accident, and there's no proof they were responsible. I feel myself wanting to submit to all the questions that are piling up in my head, but Dennis is waiting for me. Curiosity Killed the Cat playthrough is some other time. Medical help. Medical assistance for Dennis! I decide that despite my curiosity, I need to get Dennis help as soon as humanly possible. Look, is there any medical help to be had here or not? Probably, Amy says, but you'd have to find Colonel Barksdale. He knows where all those sorts of supplies are. And where is he? Where is everyone else? I ask. At this, Amy starts to weep. She falls to her knees as if someone struck her from behind. Gone, she says. Some were killed and some were just... I don't know. They disappeared right in front of me. Disappeared? I'm not gonna yell at her, she's crying. Yes, she answered. They were here 1 second and gone the next. Just... She snaps her fingers together for effect. Just gone. Something's here with us, Amy says. We were conducting an experiment and it all went horribly wrong. Something came through. Came through what? I don't even know that much. An entity? But whatever it is, it's still here somewhere, Amy responds. How could you not know? Don't you have full security access? I ask. No, I have access to almost everything, but there are 2 levels of security beyond my clearance. So what do you suggest we do now? I ask. I'm not sure, she says, wiping her tears away. But if you want to find your crew, we need to find Barksdale. He's in charge. Where is he? I ask. Down on the 3rd level, in the hangar. Let's go, I say. It's not that easy, Amy says, again looking to the rifle in my hands. Why not? Like I said, something came through when the power went out. There's several of them, all roaming the 3rd level. What came through? All I know is that the others refer to them as entities. Amy shudders as she recalls the horrors she has seen. I don't even know how to describe them. I didn't get a good look. All I did was run for my life. Behind me, I just heard screams. I know it's not very scientific of me, but I didn't feel like sticking around to learn more. She's right, Marcus says, stopping my train of thought. The things I saw on the monitors, it was crazy. This is insane, I bark. I'm going to the 3rd level to find this Barksdale guy. Thanks for your help. Wait, Marcus said. I'm sticking with you. If we want to get out of here, we have to find Barksdale, right? Yes, Amy says, but Barksdale's on the 3rd floor, and it's too dangerous to go back there. I figure I'll let them make their own decisions. In the meantime, I start heading back to the command center to get Dennis. Before I get there, I hear their footfalls behind me, getting closer. I give Amy a questioning look, and she quickly looks away. She looks away, clearly torn. Neither one of you know your way around here, she says. Looking for Barksdale on your own would be suicide. Like it or not, she has a point. Fine, I say. Then let's get Dennis from the command center and head down together. Boop. Also, yes, Ethanol, I saw your comment. I might pop around with Project Arrhythmia on sometime in November, maybe. Maybe early December. We enter the command center, and I'm happy to see that Dennis has regained some of his color. We're going to get you some help, I tell him, and then we're going to find our crew and get the hell out of here. More help would be great, he says. The way you took an hour to get my shirt off earlier, I'm not letting you touch me again. Wait, Amy says. Maybe one of us should stay here with him. I'll be okay, Dennis says. He stands to his feet with a grunt. You don't know what's out there, Amy says. I saw them. I saw what they can do. This facility is not safe. Floor. Safety information first. I'm not sure, she says, but they're down on the 3rd floor, so we'll need to be careful. Marcus looks a little hesitant, but he nods his agreement, and the 4 of us exit the command center. Heading back out into the hallway, I look back to the monitors. I take a final look at the screen that shows my wrecked logging site, and I feel a pang of sorrow. Then I look to the other monitors, showing live feeds of the facility's security cameras. I try to tell myself that I'm not looking for any sign of Amy's creatures, but I can't. That's exactly what I'm doing, and there's no need to pretend otherwise. We head back through the hall towards the elevator. The tension exists between us like a physical presence. There's some words missing or added. It's either the tension exists between us like a physical presence, or the tension that exists between us is like a physical presence. There were supposed to be 2 extra words there, but they only added 1 of them. We step inside the elevator and those pristine doors close. Inside the elevator, Amy seems to become much more guarded and distant from us. I want to assure her that I mean her no harm, but I'm also not going to put the rifle down. So you have pretty high clearance on this place, right? I ask her. That's right. So what kind of experiment are we talking about? What went wrong? When she starts to answer my question, I can tell that it's something of a relief for her to get some of it off of her chest. It's been a lot of work on a project taking place here over the last 3 years or so. The purpose is to find out if there is any real viable science behind point-to-point instantiation. Like teleporting? I ask. Oh my god, Marcus says. I had no idea. I knew there was some weird stuff here, but nothing this insane. It's really not all that insane, Amy says. We found our first major breakthrough about 9 months ago. We were able to transport a live rat from its cage on level 3 to a small lab in New Mexico. The trip took the rat 5 seconds. Are you kidding me? Dennis says. I can tell that he wants to sound off as if he is mocking the idea, but he fails. He's scared. Not at all, Amy says. The problem was that when the rat arrived, its retinas were detached and its intestines were on the outside of its body. Did you ever perfect it? Well, about 6 months ago, we successfully made that same experiment. The rat arrived in great health in this time in just 3 seconds. Still, one of the things we needed to tweak in order to make the process completely safe was how to figure out how to keep the subject on a straight course. When the matter is being transported, not only are its atoms being unknit and then put back together upon arrival. Ooh. Atoms being unknit. Put back together on arrival. Well, that just sounds like quantum teleportation, which is like a quantum copy-paste. Which, some people do, like, thought experiments about the nature of consciousness and personhood and, like, cloning, like, duplication of the mind. And if you did, like, a quantum scan of every single thing in your body and then put it back together, it would technically be another instance of you. But in order for it to count as teleportation, you have to kill the original. Atoms are being unknit and then put back together upon arrival. Unknit? Tell me more. This might be some sci-fi that they didn't think all the way through. Deconstructed and translated through space. So they are sending the matter. They are taking apart the original matter and sending it through some kind of, like, high-powered stuff. And they are taking the original matter, or a rough equivalent, and then putting it back together on the other side. Deconstructed and translated through space. It's the only way we know how to do it right now. Understandable. But the issue, as I said, comes in keeping the deconstructed subject on a straight course to its destination. When the process occurs, we are deforming space-time. Okay, yeah, so it is matter transportation, and the pulling apart the atomic structure at the quantum level is it's just to making wormholes is extremely energy intensive. You have to have, like, negative mass to make the gravity, like, space distortion work. And so shit like that gets really funky, and wormholes, as a result, anything larger than, like, the kind of thing that can snap into and out of existence on the quantum level is basically impossible to use. So they have to use, like, really tiny wormholes. And because anything bigger would be too not very cost effective, too energy intensive. Some wacky exotic matter that they probably don't have. So that's why they have to take things apart. They are deforming space-time. We are creating a shortcut through space, and that has risks. Why exactly? Dennis asks. Because there are many more dimensions in space than the 3 we exist on, she explains. There's some evidence that there are as many as 10. That's a string theory reference, and actually, string theory posits up to 11. So when you send the rat to New Mexico, it's traveling through another dimension to get there? I ask. Basically. Because of that, we're trying to get a better understanding of what those other dimensions are capable of. Things that a great deal of the population would be scared of if they knew what we're doing. Hence all the privacy. There's missing apostrophe and we're there. Then today, the power went out as we were right in the middle of an experiment. Something happened. What? I don't know. She's speaking with the authority of someone who knows what she's talking about. What have you seen in those dimensions? Other worlds, other Tegmark universes where our laws of nature don't apply, she says, not bothering to explain what that means. I bet a Tegmark universe is like an actual theoretical construct. I'm gonna have to look that up after the stream. I'm not cleared for such things, but I do get the reports. What reports? Marcus asks. I'm given access to the results of the tests. In other words, Marcus replies, clearly upset, you guys have been peeking into other dimensions and taking notes on what you see. Can't believe I've wasted all my life for this, he murmurs to himself. He looks like he's starting to freak out. Amy is quiet. Her expression indicates that she's been waiting to see how I react to all this. That's incredible. I mean, I'm impressed by the work. I would respond, wow, holy shit, every time. They fucking figured out wormholes, dog. They fucking uncurled the tightly curled extra string theory dimensions. Dude, that's an impressive fucking feat. So this is like interdimensional stuff, I ask. In a way, Amy answers. Marcus, on the other hand, is incredulous. I don't want anything to do with this, he says. All this time I've been working for... He laughs cruelly, and the sound of it makes my blood go cold for a moment. Just a single level beneath my feet, you assholes have been tearing apart space and time, Marcus continues. When the elevator doors open, I can't get out fast enough. The tension is growing way too thick for my liking. Outside of the elevator, we step into what appears to be a massive industrial area. The carnage waiting for us is unlike anything I'd ever seen in the upper levels. This is a chapter break, or just... Nah, it's just a regular break. There's blood in that picture, but there's probably going to be more in the descriptions. The area looks industrial, like everything was built for utility only. But more noticeable than that is all of the blood. My god, I've never seen so much blood. Those creatures must have had a field day. Holy shit, Marcus says, looking like a man that just woke from a very bad dream. There were more personnel in this area when the experiment went haywire, Amy says, as if the explanation makes it all better. The research you all do down here had better be worth it, I say. Instant transport is a pretty fucking huge deal, like, economically. We have to get moving, or else we're going to lose our nerve. Amy, let's focus. Barksdale's in the hangar? I ask. If he's still alive, yes, that's where he'll be. Then let's hurry, I say. As far as I can tell, Dennis is doing much better, but I'm beginning to grow tired of trying to keep my fear at bay. Between the blood on the floor, the silence of level 3, and Amy's talk of the lab rats, I'm getting freaked out. I have the gun. Amy can be Nav, but I can be Meat Shield. Maybe not Meat Shield. Fucking avatar's flickering. I need to fix some shit. Okay. The four of us start walking ahead, with me in the lead. We stop walking when we come to the remains of what looks to be 3 different people. It's hard to tell how many bodies there were because they've been torn to shreds and are distorted. 2 of the bodies look like they've been fused together. Another man looks to have his leg welded through the floor. I can see this man's face. He died in an abject state of horror, his mouth pried open in an eternal scream. Move! Do not stop with bodies. We are in immediate danger. It's simply too much. Worse than that is the fact that we have just started our journey through level 3. If there is worse waiting up ahead, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. Dennis steps up beside me, and when he speaks, his voice is soft and flat. What in the hell could do that to someone? He asks. The things I saw, Amy answers. They could do it pretty easily, I think. She looks pale, and I think that she might pass out at any moment. Tears spill from her eyes, and she is visibly shaking. But she soldiers on, looking back to me and stepping to the side of the gruesome carnage. Her eyes again go to my rifle, and she doesn't look very hopeful. You good to go? She asks me. We need to move on, but for some reason I can't take my eyes off the scene. My mind is reeling, trying to process it all. Let's go! Let's go! We are no longer in safe territory. We have to keep moving. We leave the grisly site behind, moving into another equally destroyed area. From what I can tell, the next room was once an open area for experimentation. The place hasn't just been destroyed, it has been physically altered in a way that makes no sense. The girders look to have been warped, their very materials distorted and twisted. To my right, the machine has been catapulted and looks to have somehow merged with the wall rather than crashing into it. Beyond these phenomena, there is the standard violence I was expecting to see. There's a limp arm sticking out from underneath the wreckage, and more blood. I see no sign of an explosion, which makes me wonder just how this happened. Seeing the aftermath is sickening enough, but it makes me wonder if Amy saw it while it was happening. You see what happened to those girders? I'm not gonna bring up the dead people, and that might just kill the mood even more. Mood's already dead, but goodness. I only caught a glimpse of it, she says. It was like trying to focus your eye on something that was too close. They just started twisting, but not creaking or breaking. It's like these creatures are able to deform matter. She pauses here, and that's when we hear something echo through the facility. It comes from behind us and slightly to the right. I'm not sure what it is, but it makes my blood feel like ice. It sounds almost like static from an AM radio. but there is a high-pitched noise beneath it that I can't even start to fathom. One of them... Oh, what in the hell is that? I asked, instantly clapping my hands to my ears. One of them, Amy says, her voice a whisper. One of the creatures. That's what they sound like? Dennis asks. I see that he's leaning against the wall again, wincing at the noise. I suddenly realize that I have a death grip on the rifle, ready to shoot at the next thing I see. Anything between us and them? I don't think it's gonna stop it. I should have asked how far. Not really, she says. None of the hallways are blocked off by secure doors. Everyone seems to take this as the cue to start moving again. Very good. Keep moving. We make our way around the office wreckage, now with a new purpose in our step. We barely make it to the other side of the room, approaching a dark hallway when another high-pitched noise sounds out. This one is louder. Closer. We all share a terrified look, and I can tell that Amy is on the verge of losing it. I grip the rifle tightly as we head towards the hallway in front of us. How much further to the hangar? Close, she says. It's just at the end of this hallway. Dennis speaks up, his voice like ice. Why don't we just haul ass then, huh? No one says anything after that, but I can feel the presence of terror around us, pressing in on us like some new violent gravity. Passageway, passageway, passageway. Small utility hallway is well lit. It looks as if it was designed to only be used by select maintenance workers. What goes on in this area? I ask. I'm looking at Marcus as I ask the question, but he only shrugs in response. She might know, he replies, pointing to Amy. I've never been down here before. It's just a utility hallway, Amy says. But at the end there's a maintenance room. There should be a gun or two in there. It's also the most direct path to the hangar entrance. As we walk quickly and quietly down the hall, I get to take a glimpse ahead and feel the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. The lights become more sparsely spaced, and it's impossible to see just how far the hall extends into the darkness. This hallway has the occasional trace of bloodshed, but nothing like the main area we've come from. We continue farther down, and just as I begin to see what looks like a large metal door further ahead, I hear yet another shrill sound. This one sounds farther away, but no less demonic. How many of these things did you see? Dennis asks Amy. 3. But that's just what I saw. There could be more. What did they look like? Dennis asks. Yeah, what are we dealing with? I'm not gonna blow them off. I don't even know how to explain them, she says. Monsters. It's the only word I can think of. My mind seemed to struggle just trying to understand what I was seeing. They're big, and they seem to jerk around every few feet or so. They look like they're made of light. That's all I know for sure. You know, my ex-husband always said I'd let my work kill me, she continues, seemingly unable to stop herself. I mean, I doubt he imagined this exact scenario, but still. As we make our way to the hangar doors, another high-pitched noise rings out. Angrier now. Amy stops walking, causing all of us to stop and turn to her. We have to do something to slow those things down, she says. No, Marcus snaps. There's no time. We need to distance ourselves and get to the hangar. Fast. Amy ignores him, deep in thought. There's an old hydraulic door set into the wall right here. It hasn't been used for years, though. She looks to me, pleading her case. Together we might be able to pull it close to keep those things back. Those old hydraulic doors weigh a ton, Marcus says. There's no way it'll work. Roger, Amy says. What do you think? We'll have a harder time getting to us if those doors are locked. Look, Marcus shouts. We need to get to the hangar now. I don't think a door is gonna stop them. I think they can walk through walls. This might be the stupid decision, but I'm gonna go with it. I'm rolling with it. No, I say to the group. With all the carnage back there, I doubt we could stop them. That's what I'm saying, Marcus agrees. Let's haul ass. Amy tries to speak up. But the rest of us are already running down the hallway. I speed towards the hangar doors, not even looking back to see how far Amy has fallen behind us. God damn it! Let her catch up, at least. Panic and hope are fighting within me, and I can't stop myself from sprinting. The fact that yet another shrill noise sounds out elsewhere in the facility is not calming. Then there are 2 of them. It's almost like they are calling out to one another. The doors to the hangar sit up ahead like an entrance to some enormous labyrinth. Beep boop beep boop beep boop beep boop beep boop beep boop beep beep boop beep boop beep beep boop beep boop beep. When we reach the hangar doors, I get a true sense of how impenetrable they are. A computer terminal is mounted on the wall nearby and has a blinking red light. Probably crank this up a little higher, actually. Not that high, but okay. Any idea what this means? I ask. It's an automatic lock. A failsafe from the lockdown, says Amy. I never would have been down here before. I've never been down here before, Marcus says. If I had known this door was here, I would have opened it earlier. How? Amy asks. The fear in her voice is more present than ever. From the command center, he says. You need to override from there first, then use this terminal to open the hangar doors. The command center on the second floor? I ask. Yeah. Amy shakes her head and lets out a nervous laugh. Do you hear those things? She asks. There's no way in hell I'm going back towards them through that small hallway. If you want to get into the hangar, we have to get back to the command center. Marcus? Isn't there another way? Turning to Marcus, Amy replies, well, there is another elevator, but we'll need to go through the biochem storage. I need to stay with Dennis so he can rest. You two go. You know your way around this place. And you know the controls, Marcus. Fine, Marcus says. But we'll need to be armed. Marcus is way more level-headed now that he's down here. Like, he's not, like, as flighty and, like, panicky. But given his behavior earlier, I trust Amy more. Amy gets the gun. Amy, get your gun. I hand Amy the rifle and she turns to go. Marcus gives me a concerned look, but he follows along behind her. Once Amy and Marcus make it a good distance down the hallway, Dennis lets out a nervous laugh. And then there were two, he says. Dennis looks much better, but he still needs to use the wall to stay standing. Didn't Amy say that there were guns and emergency kits in the maintenance room near the hangar doors? I ask. Yeah, I think so, Dennis says, looking exhausted. I look ahead and see a door to the right that reads maintenance. Might as well give it a try. I go to the door, try to open it, and find that it's locked. Shoulder. I give it a hard shove, but it doesn't budge. So I'm about to try again, but that's when I hear a gunshot from just down the hallway. What the fuck? My first thought is that Amy and Marcus have come upon one of those things, one of the monsters. But I don't hear any of that strange sound that I've come to associate with them. Alarm bells go off in my head, and before I know it, I am heading back down the hall, away from the hangar doors. Stay right here. I'll be right back. I whisper over my shoulder to Dennis. See if you can figure out how to get into that maintenance room. Where are you going? He asks. I don't bother answering him as I bound through the door where Amy and Marcus went. Things are heating up! Here into the... As I enter the biochem room and start walking between the massive silos, I wonder what classified chemicals could be inside of them. I'm fully expecting one of Amy's creatures to come flying out from the intersection of halls up ahead. I think I overhear a voice, a woman's voice. It's Amy. Stop! Let go of the gun! I run ahead so fast that I almost trip over two people in a life or death struggle. My mind struggles to process what I am seeing, but it makes no sense, none at all. Marcus is wrestling with Amy, trying to take her gun away. When this doesn't work, he throws her to the ground and starts choking her. Her face is turning purple and her eyes look like they might pop out of her head. Marcus sees me coming out of the hallway, but acts as if what he's doing is perfectly normal. Stop him. I start rushing towards him before I really know what I'm doing. I bring my fist in a hard arc across the bridge of his nose, and I am rewarded with a sick cracking sound. He cries out as he falls to the ground, looking at me if he doesn't understand why I punched him. On the floor, Amy clutches at her neck and gasps for breath. I start to fear that I was a moment too late, just as I see the rifle has been thrown across the floor. Marcus seems to notice at the exact same moment that I do. Punch him! This is a risky... your risks. Taking risks. I deliver a surprisingly strong blow with my right hand, clipping his chin from my awkward position. I'm in the process of planting a knee on his chest to hold him down when his left foot comes out of nowhere, landing hard. The kick catches me squarely in my ribs, knocking the breath out of me. What the hell are you doing? He yells at me. By killing her, I'm saving us. All of this was her fault. I'm gonna put a bullet in your head, Marcus. Fuck you. I sense that he truly believes this, but if that's the case, then why not just attack her when we were all together? The answer is simple. We might have stopped him. He wanted to kill her in private. And then what? Would he have done the same to Dennis and me? It seems fitting, really. When we first came upon Marcus, he held a gun on us. I'd been so relieved to see another human being that I underestimated just how unhinged he was. Marcus and I both dive for the rifle, still laying on the floor, and start wrestling for possession. But I'm not confident I'll come away with it. As we struggle, he starts inching the muzzle of the gun towards my face, a position I do not want it to be in. I start pushing back hard, but as this thing accidentally fires, I'm not sure where I'd prefer the bullet. But I'd prefer the bullet to go, especially in this room full of chemical tanks. Marcus. Fuck you. I grunt as I push the muzzle to point towards his face. Realizing he's literally looking down the barrel of a gun, Marcus ducks his head out of the way. This makes him lose leverage, allowing me to yank the gun from his grip. I get to my feet as quickly as I can, swinging the rifle back around on him. For a moment, I think I've knocked him out, but his eyes fluttering, he looks at me as if I've betrayed him. Her people, he says. It was them that did this. She deserves to die. She did this. No, that's not how it fucking works, asshole. I look to Amy and wish I could help her. I'm relieved to see that she's managing to draw in a few breaths. Her legs move as she tries to push herself into a sitting position. You wouldn't know, Marcus says. You didn't work here under their secrecy. You don't know what it was like to. He surprises me by lunging forward, leaping from the floor like a human projectile. I don't have the time to aim carefully. I have to react fast. I react before thinking. My muscles take over and my finger squeezes the trigger. The blast is deafening. As I watch Marcus fall to the floor, a terrifying thought races through my mind. If some of those things are here and they didn't know we were here before, they sure as hell know now, or where we were. Marcus falls to the floor and I see right away that I shot him in the shoulder. His right arm dangles loosely, already covered in blood. He roars in pain on the floor. Only, after a few moments, I realize they are not purely screams of pain. The bastard is calling for them, calling for those creatures to come for us. This place is evil, along with everyone involved, he wails from the floor. If you are taking her side, then you deserve to die too. If you want to stop me, you better do it now, coward. The rage is in eyes at Amy, as well as towards me for stopping him, makes me think that he'll deliver on his threat. I raise the rifle again, every urge in my body wanting to make sure he doesn't come back to bite us. But I am not a violent man. I could easily not kill him and just leave him behind. I'm not taking this fucking risk. I know this is a big deal, but fuck you, Marcus. I can't complete the motion while I look at him. I close my eyes tight and squeeze the trigger. The muzzle bursts and I hear Marcus crumple onto the floor. It's not for another 10 seconds or so that I realize I've been standing still, frozen, with my eyes closed and my teeth clenched. I try to avoid looking at Marcus's body and I lean down to Amy. You okay? She nods slowly. Have to go, she says, her voice raspy. They'll be here any minute. Too much noise. I have to hold her arm so she can get to her feet. We start forward and then I think of Dennis. We should go back to the hangar doors, I say. I can't just leave Dennis there. There's no time, Amy says. You need to come up with me to the command center. Now, we'll be back for him soon. I stare at Marcus' dead body for a moment, trying to comprehend the fact that my own hands caused him to die. It is a turning point in my life that I will never recover from. But there is no time to weigh it now. As I look at him, another high-pitched static sound rings out from elsewhere. It is louder, more ferocious. Amy takes off, presumably towards the other elevator she had mentioned moments ago. As we move out, I look back once more at Marcus's body, motionless. We start running, and after the first few strides, another noise sounds out. It sounds mechanical, but at the same time, it also reminds me of recordings I've heard of whale songs. I dare a look behind us, and something has entered the doorway I came through. It is large and bright, but it's too far away to see clearly, and I have no interest in seeing it. Whether pulling that hydraulic door would have helped, I'm not sure, but seeing how close they are, I regret not doing it. I speed up my step to follow Amy as she leads the way to the other elevator. She's panting furiously, but pushes on. I can hear something rattling in her breath, likely the result of Marcus's attack. This makes me imagine how his cold and uncaring eyes must have looked, staring down at her as he tried to deliver her to death. How she is still forging on is beyond me. I'm sorry about Marcus, I say. It's not your fault, she interrupts. At least you handed me the gun. I just hope we find a way to survive this mess. Me too, but we both keep our eyes fixed straight ahead. Better to stay focused. We finally come to the elevator at the end of a row of silos. Now I'm more concerned with the monstrosity that is on our heels. Amy furiously slaps at the button to open the doors. They slide open slowly. It feels like it's taking forever. We squeeze in before the doors are opened all the way, Amy actually falling to her knees and screaming. I ready the rifle and watch helplessly as the doors finally reach their full opening capacity. As they hold open, I see a large shape floating towards us. A phosphorescent-like white glow outlines an impossible shape. Behind it, I see another shape that also enter the biochem room. And another. The third one breaks away from the other two, taking a quick right. It moves with eerie speed. They are heading in the direction of Marcus' body. Honestly, the thought of them feasting on his corpse doesn't bother me in the slightest. Amy is pressing the button to close the elevator doors over and over, but they stay open for what seems like an eternity. I curse whoever designed these damn doors. Ready to shoot. We can't go anywhere, I figure. So no use in hiding. I take a step and stand firm in the elevator doorway. I hold the rifle steady, ready to fire, and that's when I see them in a clear light for the first time. I can see their features, their shape, and their colors, but my mind can't quite process it all. Nothing about them makes any sense. My eyes try to see a squid, but that's not what these things are. They are gray and white and seem to be nothing more than squirming light. Their appendages are neither legs nor tentacles, but somewhere in between? They don't walk on these appendages, but use them to glide. They move like ghosts and seem to jerk every few feet or so. But I'm pretty sure that this jerking effect is not a result of their moving, but my mind's inability to understand how they are moving. It's also more than their appearance that makes a mockery of reality. The light around them seems to bend inward, as if the space within the room has to reshape itself for their existence. That peculiar effect on the air makes their movements seem like something is moving underwater, only faster. They screech in unison as they rush towards the elevator. They'll be inside here in another few seconds. Check the rifle and see that my ammo is diminishing. I'll have to start saving shots. Going to have to be choosy. Risky, risky, risky! Risky, risky, risky! Keep advancing. Even though I know the doors may not close in time, I manage to keep my cool and avoid firing off any more rounds. My finger itches to pull the trigger, but I resist. I'm not even sure if a gun would affect them. We can shoot them later. Finally, the elevator door closes. The creatures wash against the other side of the door, making an electrical noise and crying out in anger. Okay, so they can't exactly walk through walls. The tips of their spider-like appendages poke through the wall and elevator door, but for some reason they can't get all the way through. Okay, so they can like, reach through walls, but not quite. Amy screams at this and curls into a ball in the far corner of the elevator, crying. I say nothing to her. I just cling to the rifle, hoping those creatures don't find Dennis as he waits by the hangar doors where I left him. For his sake and ours, we need to get them open now. Chapter 3. The blunt truth. Yes. 69% nice. 69% ladies gave the gun to Amy. As you should! Marcus is a lunatic! You and 42% of players killed Marcus. I watched Markiplier play this, like, 5 years ago? Maybe 6? Maybe 5? I can't remember when this game came out and when he played it. But I think he let Marcus live, and Marcus came back to bite them. Hard. He was the fucking... The instant he goes full lunatic, I was not taking any risks. Yes, I am coming into this with a little more, knowledge than I would otherwise. But, yeah. The ride on the elevator is tense. I take a series of deep breaths, doing everything I can to stay in control. Amy has gone back to her feet, but her head is pressed up against the elevator wall as she suppresses a series of sobs. I find myself trying to remember the way those creatures looked, but my mind seems to shudder at the effort. Water. I've seen something that is an impossibility, a mockery of what I know is real. This fills me with a terror that dwarfs anything else I have felt since discovering the facility. I try to focus my mind on something else, and that's when I remember that I've just murdered Marcus. I killed Marcus, I say, the thought feeling like jumping into cold water. Had you ever killed anyone before? Amy asks. No. He was going to kill me, she says. I'm sure of it. Probably. Well, thank you, she says. But her tone is unsteady and her face is unreadable. Of course. I guess he deserved it, she says. Her comment hangs in the air for a moment as we wait for the elevator to stop. So, I say, How did you end up here? She gives a nervous chuckle and shrugs. I used to work with the Pentagon. With some pretty upper echelon stuff that I still can't discuss. I assume this place is even more upper echelon? This place isn't even on the scale, she answers. My other job was a cakewalk compared to this. Then why stay? Because the money is ridiculous. I have a 13-year-old daughter already talking about Harvard. You do the math. Harvard, huh? That's ambitious. Oh, I know. She's a force of nature. Her dad ran off when she was 3, so for a long time it's just been her and me. Amy pauses before continuing softly. What if I never see... Her voice breaks off. The word's too terrible to say. Her eyes fill with tears. Her eyes fill with tears. The elevator comes to a stop, the slight ding of it interrupting the moment. Amy hastily wipes her eyes, and we waste no time in getting back to the inside of the command center. Getting back inside the command center! Here we are, home again, home again. I've readied the rifle, suddenly certain that there are more of those creatures waiting for us in the hallway of the second level. But the way is clear, allowing us to haul ass to the command center. Once again, I find myself staring at the screen that shows my ruined work site. Okay, Amy says, typing commands rapidly. It can't be that hard. I keep peeking over my shoulders, my senses feeling as if the monsters are sneaking up on us, mere inches away. I then think of Dennis and wonder how he is faring back on level 3. Is he safe? He is not safe. I don't know if they got him yet, but he is not safe. I look back to the screens and see that Amy has finally found what she's looking for. A prompt on the screen that says, override of hangar doors and all level 3 locks requires clearance code. Amy types in a number with shaking fingers and the screen goes black for a moment. The moment the words override confirmed come up on the screen, Amy jumps from the chair and heads out of the room. We have to be quick, she says. We have exactly 20 minutes to open those hangar doors. What happens in 20 minutes? Let's get going. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. I follow her out of the command center and bound back down the hallway towards the same elevator that brought us here. Amy punches the elevator button and the doors slide open. We're taking the same elevator back to the biochem room? I ask. Those creatures are still down there. There are even more in the other direction, remember? Hopefully they left. Hopefully. Neither of us say anything as we share a look of immense dread. We step back into the elevator and head down to the biochem room on level 3. As the elevator doors open, we peer out, looking to see if the creatures are still in the area. But it's all clear. When Amy looks to me, her eyes are clear and strong. Marcus wasn't entirely wrong, Amy says, as we start walking back towards the hangar doors. About what? I ask. About how I am partially to blame for this. Why? Some of the things we do here, it's scary. We should have known that one day something like this would happen. Everyone here with knowledge of what goes on in level 3 is to blame, she says. It's a highly advanced research facility, I say. Doing amazing but risky stuff. So yeah, you're partially to blame just by working here. But I can understand the dedication. So why don't you tell me a bit more about what does go on in level 3, I ask. Are you familiar with the Large Hadron Collider over in Switzerland? I've heard the phrase, but that's about it. I know what that is. It's a powerful particle accelerator, she explains. Right now they're using it to try and create what's called dark matter. It's theorized that this dark matter actually makes up the majority of the universe, but parts of the universe are very different from ours. My guess is that the people at the LHC will create their first dark matter particle in about 2018 or 2019. I still don't think we've gotten there. I don't think the LHC has done that progress now that those years have passed. Here in this facility, we were able to create one almost 10 years ago. It was the key to our research. What does it do? We use dark matter to assist with the instantaneous transfer of a subject. We have yet to perfect it or understand why it works. So you're saying it lets you gain access to different dimensions? I ask. That's the theory, she says. During the point-to-point transfer, the subjects are gone for about 3 to 6 seconds. There's no way to see or measure their presence, but they exist somewhere. From what we can tell, they exist in a kind of void. What's that place like? We don't know. There may be an infinite number of voids or spaces. Some of them appear to just be nothingness, a vacuum, or exotic matter. We're talking about places we can only measure with instruments. What does that mean? I ask. Do you know what these places look like? No. It means in order to describe it to you, you'd have to be a mathematician, and I'd have to walk you through reams of data and equations. So even though we can describe them, we're still a long way from figuring out what these places look like. Sorry, I asked, I say, feeling my mind start to bend inward again. As we continue to walk between the silos, we walk past the area where we left Marcus' body. I barely even glance at his body, still unable to believe that I was responsible for killing him. I also don't want to look at the additional damage the monsters caused. A pool of blood and mangled clothes are all I see through the corner of my eye. I realize that we are walking very close together between the silos, perhaps trying to create the illusion of safety. We reach the exit connecting to the hangar doors, and where Dennis hopefully still is. My guts clench and my heart hammers in my chest as we open the door and walk through. I lift the rifle, but at first it seems that there's nothing waiting for us. And that's when I see the glowing, hulking shape to my left closing in fast. Scary monster, 9 o'clock. The creature is about 10 feet away and coming in quickly, so I do the first thing that comes to mind. I drop to the ground, making myself a smaller target, and raise the rifle. I'm not sure if I should just unload on the bastard or try to be choosy with my shots and weaken it. Or at least slow it down. To weaken. I don't think these things can be killed by conventional weapons. My shot causes the entire milky white frame to jerk to the floor. It flounders, its ghost-like tentacles writhing with rage as it cries out at me. It seems to turn and jerk away, part of it appearing and disappearing every few feet. It moves down the hall and out of sight. I look quickly around for others, but there is only Amy. She looks at where the monster went with wide eyes. Her face is pale, and I wonder if, like me, she's able to feel her mind trying to retreat. Come on, I say. Let's find Dennis, and get through these hangar doors. Amy glances at her watch. And nods. We're already down to 6 minutes. We turn towards the hangar doors, and I'm a little disgusted with myself because the bloody scene that so shocked me before seems mild. Before now seems mild. Amy goes to work on the computer console on the side of the doors. She starts punching in keys before saying, "This is going to take some time." "I thought you already unlocked it." "I did," she says. "But for this door, there's still security permissions I need to hack. Marcus would have known how to do this." Fuck, dude. She trails off, and I decide to let her work. Suddenly something slams into me. I feel my feet leave the floor, and I am literally thrown across the concrete. I look up in time to see one of the creatures. It's apparently in no hurry to attack me again, focusing on Amy instead. She's not armed. I need to come up with a plan to get this thing away from her so she can focus on getting the door open. It raises one of its flickering appendages, making me certain that part of its makeup is pure light and energy. I could easily take a shot with my rifle, but my mind goes into how much remaining ammo I have. The only other thing I can think of is to get it to chase me and lead it away from the room. Somewhere. Distraction! After killing Marcus, I am keeping my bullets. Keep being very sparing with my bullets. "Hey," I yell. "Right here! Come and get me! I'm the one that shot your buddy!" It turns to me, and I'm again faced with staring at something that has no business in this world. In this reality. Its body gives off a sort of glow around the central part, a bulbous core that is branched off into 2 humps, very much like a spider. Again, I sense that its visual information is not accurate, but it's the best my simple mind can do to make sense of this impossible creature. It starts lurching towards me and lets out a shriek of agony that makes my ears feel like they'll explode. Now that I'm sure it's coming after me, I take off running and head into another hallway we have not been down. I find myself in an industrial-looking area, and I'm pleased to find that the monster has followed me through. The room seems to be in an assortment of old pipes and tanks. I assume some of them run further down into other areas of the facility. With the creature on my tail, I dash into the maze of metal, hoping to lose it. Definitely having a harder time squeezing through than I am, and that slows it down. Of course, the room's not a cage of any kind. The thing is still heading towards me, shredding through the pipes as it rages. I notice that sometimes it is breaking the steel girders, but other times it seems like it's somehow merging or changing them. Pipes that were separate are now connected together in a way that makes my head hurt. I finally get a good amount of distance between myself and the creature. I think it's lost my trail. I need to get back to those hangar doors. There's not much time before they close shut. But if I make a sound, that creature could be on my heels again. To run. She said 6 minutes. We don't have that much time. There's no time, I think to myself. I have to get moving. With no care of staying silent, I twist myself through some more pipes and make my way towards the door I entered through. Immediately, the creature picks up on this and turns toward me. Fuck. But I don't even look back. I slide through this rusted obstacle course and sprint back to the hangar doors. I'm not sure if that was the right choice, but I feel like endings is endings. There will always be cool endings, I think. I burst back into the large room and see Amy still working on the computer terminal by the hangar doors. I should have fucking done it quietly. She's not done. You okay? I ask Amy. I can clearly see her battling for control of her faculties. Steel determination wins out and she gives a grim nod. Any sign of where Dennis went? I said, hoping she hasn't noticed his body somewhere. No, she replies. It's then that I realize that I have no idea how many rounds I have remaining in the rifle. This isn't a model I'm familiar with outside of some deer hunting. I'm not much of an expert on firearms. I'm able to locate the chamber easily and see that there are 4 rounds left. 4. Not great, but it could be worse. How are we on time? 4 minutes. I'm going as fast as I can. I was worried how long it would take you to lose that thing. Well, I say, I decided it was better to get back quickly than to... At that moment, the creature screams on the other side of the doors. He'll be here in a second. Amy does her best to focus on the keyboard, but there's still no sign of Dennis. Before I have time to look around, a screeching sound erupts from the other end of the room. I bring the rifle up in a shooter stance and turn around. With the hangar doors right behind me, no signs of Dennis in a closing window of time, I have to be confident. I have 4 rounds. Yet when 2 monsters come around the corner, my body wants to shut down. The appendages seem to jump in time and space, reaching out for a split second, independent of the body, and then disappearing back to where they came from. It turns and screeches at me, its glowing tentacles snaking out of its body. My knees tremble uncontrollably. Behind me, Amy shrieks. I feel myself losing control, my mind sliding into the abyss of insanity. I pull myself back from the brink. I've got to stay in control. Shoot! This is where you take the shot! I step away from Amy and the hangar doors and towards the monster, ready to defend her. I ready my rifle, but the creature wastes no time. It makes that jerky motion towards me, and there's a sharp pain in my chest as it collides with me. Uh-oh. Or through me. It's hard to tell. My instinct is to try to grapple or hold this thing down, but then I realize I don't even know if that will work. Grab. Self-sacrifice. I'm already in self-sacrifice mode. Might as well keep going with it. I try to grapple with the creature, but it feels very different from my struggle with Marcus earlier. It's not easily grabbed. My fingers slide through parts of it, and some parts like a ghost, others like a jellyfish. Touching it burns my hands, but only slightly. When I realize I can't grip it, I quickly spring away and turn to face it. With a scream of defiance, I raise the rifle and put a round in its core. The shot lands dead center, and the light inside of it flickers almost violently. It falls back against the wall, issuing a hiss of its telltale static noise, and then jerks away and retreats, at least for now. Another terror appears as if out of nowhere, screaming at me with its high-pitched whine. It bounds forward, charging in this strange, spastic way. I aim the rifle, intending to take this one in the core, too. I take several shots, but it's still coming at me. As it slams into me, I realize that I only have 1 bullet left. On contact, the wind is knocked out of my lungs and the back of my head strikes the floor. But neither of these things is as alarming as the fact that the beast is on top of me. Its exterior is like a seashell that has been pounded by the surf for so long that it's lost all its edges and ridges. But the grip it tries to capture me with is pure violence. I feel those light-soaked appendages start to wrap around me. I raise the rifle, knowing I still have 1 shot left. The weight of the monster is erratic. One moment I feel weightless, then another I feel like I'm going to be crushed. I push upwards with the rifle to aim, but it is overpowering me. I'm not sure I'll be able to get an effective shot off. I see the core of its body, a spider-like shape, connected to the rest of it by thin, white strings of tissue. I know I'll be dead within seconds unless I can manage a shot, but I don't know where to aim. This thing already has survived for so long. Ooh, Center. I'm just gonna roll with it. This creature is seconds away from tearing into my shoulder. I have to stop it now. I grunt as I try to angle the rifle in the direction of the beast's formless core. The appendages begin tugging down on the barrel, and it's at that moment I pull the trigger, unleashing my final shot. Thank God I saved this bullet earlier. Yeah. The shot aggravates it enough to win me some breathing room. I've saved my shoulder, but this thing's still alive and kicking. Fuck! Maybe I should aim for the tentacles. Then I see the creature extend its tentacles in a violent whip-like motion away from me, while it makes that static screeching sound. The creature disappears into thin air and reappears a few feet from me, retreating. The shudder, in a cry of desperation, I get to my feet just in time to see the monster head in the direction of the biochem room. Amy looks over at me from her terminal in the hangar doors, looking petrified. Hold on. Hold on for just a moment, please. Okay. About that. He had a gnat flying about. Hinsaru. I'm petrified. I manage to help myself up when I see another figure nearing us. But to my relief, I realize it's a human figure. Dennis. With a gun. You okay, boss? He asks. But his eyes aren't on me. They're looking to the creature, trying to understand exactly what he has just seen. About 15 minutes ago, I heard the door to that maintenance room unlock, Dennis says, pointing to the room I tried to bust my way into earlier. Ah, Amy says. When I did the override in the command center and locked all the small doors down here, including the maintenance room. I went inside there and hid, Dennis continues. And while I was waiting for you to come back, I found a massive trunk. There were a few guns in it, so I grabbed this one, he says, patting his shotgun. I'm glad you're safe, man. Thanks, boss, he says. Me too. Great. Now how's that door coming along? I ask Amy. She makes a few final key presses and says, done. The doors open with the noise of hydraulics and a whoosh of air. Dennis, Amy, and I climb up and head through the doors, moving on nothing more than adrenaline. I see her look longingly at the maintenance room Dennis took the shotgun from. You get into the hangar, Dennis says. I'll get some more firepower. Satisfied with the plan, Amy heads through the door. We scramble inside, finally inside the hangar. Dennis approaches from behind, holding several guns and looking like a kid who grabbed an armful of Halloween candy. Topical. Seasonal. Amy reaches out for a 9mm with one hand. Dennis turns to me and holds out a shotgun and a handgun for me to choose. Both look deadly. The shotgun looks more powerful, but the handgun will be more precise. Fuck. Handgun. I feel like I should have taken the shotgun because the scatter shot would be good because I don't actually fully understand the creatures I'm fighting, and therefore, like, precision, like, but also there's a risk of missing entirely, and bothering the creature is better than missing it entirely. I select the handgun, and I am comforted by the way it seems to fit perfectly in my shaky grip. There are more creatures coming, as many as a dozen. They're floating down the hall quickly, their tentacles slithering. The way their light seems to mingle together is almost beautiful. Close the door! I yell at Amy. She dashes to another terminal mounted on the inside of the hangar doors and tries desperately to close them. It's not working! She says with tears in her eyes. This terminal is disabled! Dennis looks through the open doors, readying himself to shoot the first monster that nears us. Should we try to slow a few down or just run for it? Run for it. Let's save our animal. It's risky. Good idea, Amy says. With that, we turn around and sprint out into the hangar floor. Continue. The room is enormous. So large that to call it a room seems silly. A large concrete floor stretches out below an expansive lofted ceiling. The area is mostly empty, except for one side, which has rows and rows of metal barrels. Back on the far wall is a lift area that seems to expose more rooms, labs, and machinery. Also in the rear of the hangar, I can see some kind of chamber or control center. Dennis and I follow Amy across the hangar floor. Behind us, a series of rough slithering sounds tells us that the creatures have made their way into the hangar. From somewhere up ahead, a loud buzzing noise sounds out. It reminds me of the slight buzzing noise I'd heard in the forest, the noise that I've tried to avoid. I look ahead and see that in the far back of the hangar, a bright red light is flashing. There's a small hatch or door below the light. The hatch is open, and I can see a shape inside of it. I can barely make out the figure of a man standing there holding an industrial microphone. And as soon as I see him, I hear his huge, amplified voice. It blares down over an intercom system, and he sounds pissed. I don't know who the hell you are, he says, but this is a government facility on lockdown, and there are protocols to... Shit! I assume the curse coincides with the exact moment he sees the creatures. They're making their way through the hangar doors. There may be 20 feet between us and the creatures. I act instinctively, firing twice as the handgun comes alive in my hands. One shot goes into the core of one monster, causing it to jerk backwards. Another shot slows down another. The accuracy I get with the 9mm is amazing. Amy and Dennis take the cue and start firing as well. The floor becomes littered with a swirling white fluid from the wounded creatures' bodies, but they are not slowing down. The alarm keeps shrieking behind us, and when I turn to see if anything has changed back there, I trip over my feet. I hit the ground hard in an almost comic fashion, slide several feet across the floor. From the ground, I see that we have managed to turn back 4 of them, but I also see that my estimate of a dozen is off. There are at least 20 of them. They're sick, dim, light, sinister, and gloomy. Their appendages seem to bind together as they come forward. My only hope of survival is that the man in the far doorway somehow shuts the hangar doors. His voice comes blaring down over the intercom again, broken by the booming noise of the gunfire that we are laying down. Run here, towards the isolation chamber! Not sure how much time we have. I realize that I can sprint ahead of Amy and Dennis, or I can hang back and give them cover. Cover! We're doing self-sacrifice mode. Go inside! Where that guy is, I say. Ooh, I clipped the mic a little bit. I'll make sure we don't have any of those things right on our tails. I'll hold them back for a while. I know it sounds macho, but it also feels like the right thing to do. Exactly. I have to at least try to give us some kind of chance for escape. So as Amy and Dennis run through the doors, I blast at the next thing I see moving. All I get for my troubles is that static-like hiss and a high-pitched whistling noise. I'm able to beat them back for a bit, forcing them to scatter. Each flicker of light is a small victory. If nothing else, I'm buying Amy and Dennis time. When I am certain there is nothing more I can do, I turn and run. I hustle, quickly catching up to Amy and Dennis, who stop and turn to provide me with cover fire. There, Amy says, pointing to the small door where the man was standing earlier. The swarm is less than 15 feet away now, so furious that they are pushing through one another to get to us. I raise the handgun and fire, taking my time to aim. I hit one in the spider-like part of its body. I fire again, this time taking one in the core. I place 2 more rounds into this creature, eventually causing it to move backwards. We are in the middle of the hangar floor now, with the isolation chamber ahead and the monsters behind. Beside me, Dennis also fires. The kick of the gun jolts him, probably a result of him being weakened from blood loss. His shot lands true, though, causing a jerking stumble and a flickering of its light. We're almost in! Amy yells as we get close to the door, and we hope will save us. Dash inside. I know I did. I waste no time heading for the room. I basically leap towards the door, already feeling a little more secure. I nearly shout for joy when I reach the frame, but then feel something hot seep into my back. Roger! Dennis yells. The pain in my back is so immense that I barely notice the fact that I am being lifted from the floor. I look down and see that one of the creatures is using its flowing arms to grab me by my waist, its tentacles wrapping around me. It lifts me into the air as if presenting me as a trophy to its friends. I try to focus, attempting to angle my arm in a way that will allow me to aim the handgun and place a bullet in its body. But it's shaking me violently, and its body parts are appearing and disappearing in a way that makes no sense. Another oddity of its structure. I can literally do nothing more than hang there like a rag doll, hoping to be saved. As it continues to hoist me up, screeching its approval, Dennis comes back out of the room and fires off a shot. The bullet catches the monster on the underside of its core, sending it backwards and causing it to freeze for a moment. It releases me and I hit the ground, dropping my gun and again finding myself unable to breathe. I feel slightly dizzy, but that fades when I see Dennis is still standing outside the door. He's firing into the beast like a madman and doesn't see the one on his left coming in along the edge of the wall. Push him out of the way. I try to dash towards Dennis to put him out of the way, but there's not enough time. Fuck! The creature jerks out of existence and reappears right behind it. God damn it! By the time Dennis turns and sees the creature coming, it has already drawn several of its appendages back to strike. Dennis tries to raise his gun, but it's knocked away by one of the tentacles. The second tentacle strikes Dennis and is spun around. And Dennis is spun around and thrown off balance by the attack. Dennis catches himself before falling. A third tentacle wraps around Dennis's forearm, and I can see it squeeze, tightening instantly. The tip of the appendage passes clean through his hand, its blood-soaked tip poking out through his palm. Dennis's face grimaces with pain as he tries to wrench his arm free, but the creature's tentacle has his hand speared like a nail through wood. In a moment of dark clarity, I realize that I can free him with a clean shot at the monster's tentacle, but it will likely mean blowing Dennis's hand off. Dennis! I yell over the creatures. A high-pitched static sound. Can you get free? I have a shot! Maybe! No! Dennis gasps as the creature tosses him around by his hand like a puppet. Don't shoot! I can get free! I can't tell if he's right, but if the other monsters are starting to encircle him, I need to act fast. I'll wait for him to get This is a risk. I'm gonna trust his judgment. Dennis is fighting hard, doing everything he can to bring the gun around with his good hand. He's screaming as he tries to tear his hand away, screaming in both fury and desperation. This only seems to anger the creature, which then swats Dennis with another of its tentacles, opening a deep gash across his cheek. His skin peels back and his eyes go wide with shock. The creature drops him to the ground as if playing with him, and then the floor and space around Dennis seems to warp. The bottom quarter of his body seems to disappear before I realize it's been merged with the floor. Fucking damn it. And at that moment, I know it's over. 3 others swarm him, surrounding what remains of his falling body. I don't even hear Dennis scream. There's just a frenzy of the crackling, sickening wail sound. After that, there is nothing else. Fury, sorrow, and absolute rage surge through my heart. I grab my gun as the remaining beasts come toward me. They'll kill me, but I don't care. This is war, as far as I'm concerned. This is... Amy grabbed me from behind and pulls me hard inside. I try fighting her off, but she's persistent. And part of my mind knows she's right. She practically throws me through the doorway. As I fall, I hear her fire off 2 more shots before slamming the door closed behind her. I watch blearily as she punches a few buttons on a control pad on the wall. This is followed by a metallic click as the door locks. We are safe in the chamber, but Dennis is gone. God damn it. I wanted to keep Dennis alive. Killing Marcus was the choice I made to keep Dennis alive. God fucking damn it. Some split-second decisions and improper gunplay made me screw it up. We are now inside a large reinforced chamber of sorts, almost like the inside of a submarine. Near us is the door, shut tight. Far away from us along the back wall are all sorts of controls and monitors. It seems clear that this metal door is impenetrable, at least to them. I'm fairly sure that they aren't getting in. Dennis, I say. I'm sorry, Amy says. I'm sorry for pulling you back, but you were walking to your death out there. I know, I say, but that doesn't make it any easier. I couldn't quite see, but it looked like you may have had a shot. Why didn't you take it? He told me not to. Roger, Amy says. My God, I'm sorry. He's dead, I say, hoping that speaking the words will help me to understand what just happened. I came through all of this to try to save him, and he's dead. How did this happen? Why did I listen to him? Good fucking question. I should have taken the shot. Out of nowhere, an image of Dennis pumping his fist after winning a game of pool pops into my head. I can't reconcile that happy image with what I just saw. I feel myself zoning out, wanting to just give up, but I'm stubborn. The fact that Dennis is dead is a cruel motivator. I have to get out of here, I say. What I don't say is that I have to get out of here so that all this trouble will have been worth something. We are interrupted by a man's voice booming behind us. Just what in the hell do you think you're doing? The man roars. He's an older man who seems to exude power and authority, but he also looks tired and scared. I assume this is Barksdale. He walks over to us from the back recess of the chamber. We didn't have a choice, Amy responds. We had to... Did you override the locks on the hangar doors? Barksdale demands. Yes, I did. But we had to... Do you have any idea what you could have done? Amy doesn't answer right away. She is furious, but she is also scared and visibly exhausted. Who is this? I address my question to Amy, preferring to get my info from her rather than whoever this is. The man doesn't break eye contact with Amy. Colonel Barksdale. He runs the place, she says, annoyed. Look, Barksdale, you can berate me and lecture me all you want when this mess is over. But right now I have a wounded civilian here, and as you can see, several entities are trying to get into this room. So if you could actually do something instead of sitting on your throne and yelling at me, that would be great. I'm impressed by her guts and wonder if there's some sort of beef between the two of them. Surely working in a place like this could cause some stress and tension between people. As we wait, I notice a small peephole in the door. I go to it and look out to the things. They're still looking for a way in, but finding no success. I wonder if they can somehow sense or somehow see me through the door. Flip them the bird. Flip them off. Flip them off. I can't help myself. I hold up my middle finger to one and smile defiantly. You get a blast of high-pitched sound in response. You'll be reprimanded for speaking to me in such a way, Barksdale says to Amy. Reprimand me all you want. It's like I'd like to survive this first. Cover your ears, Barksdale shouts, walking away towards the far end of the room. Stay put until you hear back from me. Thank you, Amy says with fire in her voice. She then turns to me and says, better do what the man says. Ears. Ears. Clap my hands over my ears just in time to protect my hearing from a deafening blast. I could still feel my blood rushing out, and wonder if this is what Dennis felt like at the beginning of his end. Before the sorrow of losing Dennis can consume me, something slaps against the wall of the room with tremendous force. I assume this is just another of the monsters slithering along at the wall. When I turn back towards the door, I hear something surprising. More bursts of a loud, explosive noise start ringing out. Looking through the peephole again, I see the core of one of the beasts explode! It vanishes in a puff of smoke and clear liquid. Looking to my left, I see Barksdale in a shooting stance at the far end of the side of the room. He's firing through a small slit in the wall. He's using some high-powered weapon, the likes of which I've never seen. I see a slight movement as the gun kicks, accompanied by a flicker of white light. Immediately, another monster is downed, its tentacles flailing around aimlessly as most of its core is torn through. I instantly feel gratitude and an immense satisfaction in knowing that they are being picked off in such a way. Rest. Rest. Sit. Take a sit. I slide down against the door and simply wait, listening to the occasional patter of what I assume is their blood on the wall. I don't know how much time passes, maybe 5 seconds, maybe 5 minutes, and I don't care, it feels nice to lay down. When the firing is over, I barely even notice it. Soon after, Barksdale walks back to our side of the room. They're all gone, Barksdale says, and I have resealed the hangar doors. How'd you kill him like that? I ask. Classified weapons that, quite frankly, you have no business being near. Amy gets to her feet and returns to the panel on the wall. Thanks. How badly is the civilian hurt? Barksdale asks Amy, as if I'm not good enough for him to speak to. A nasty cut, Amy answers. He gets some quick attention, he'll be okay. Okay, I'll have Strickland get a med kit. Strickland survived? Amy asked, sounding cheerful. Yes, and up until you and your friends showed up, I thought we were the only ones. Hang tight, she's on her way. With that said, he retreats away to the back of the room, as if he can't stand to be around us. Amy approaches us and looks me over. You're in good hands. Strickland will be able to fix you up. Is she a doctor or something? Sort of. She's also a physicist. But oddly enough, she spent time as a trauma nurse in the army. Is Strickland a friend of yours? Amy chuckles. Yeah, we've known each other for a while. The only woman in a sea of overachieving men. Must be glad Strickland survived. I'm not gonna... Barksdale does sound like a prick, but I'm not gonna bring it up to her. I am. Usually we have lunch together, she says. And she's helped me out of a few tight spots in my career. Within a few seconds, the door behind us opens and a woman appears from back further in the chamber. She enters the room with what looks like a small suitcase. She is dressed in a very basic and drab military getup, complete with a holstered sidearm. My name is Connie Strickland, she says, getting straight to the point. I can patch you up pretty good, but it's going to hurt. I nod, honestly not caring how much it hurts. My God, I just want to get out of here, to get home. Sit down, and let's see if we can get your shirt off, Strickland says. I sit down slowly start unbuttoning my shirt. She has to help me slip it off from my shoulders, but we manage. How bad is it? I ask. Bad, she said. It almost looks like a burn, but I've seen much worse. I might as well talk to Strickland, if only to distract from the pain. What's your story? Strickland rolls her eyes as she gathers up a needle and some thread. I was always into fringe science. I started in labs where these eccentric Russian scientists were being funded by the US to work on combining DNA types. That sounds like some MK Ultra shit. I sort of became obsessed with perfecting human physiology while I was a trauma nurse in the army. You were a mad scientist, then, I say. I get that a lot. But no, not compared to the stuff we do here. What kind of stuff? It's complicated. Komar masses, quantum gravity, crunching these down to their Schwarzschild radiuses. Fun stuff. Yeah, I'm a mad scientist, I say, trying to keep myself calm with dry humor. There are lots of smaller labs working on this same stuff, she argues. They just don't have our funding. I don't know, making black holes is kind of a big deal. When you guys ran in here, she says, I was horrified. Those barrels outside, I'm not sure if you saw them. Well, if you shot them, they could have been bad. Why, I ask. The gray ones are filled with an experimental fuel that is highly flammable. The yellow ones contain liquid nitrogen. What? I ask. Just laying around? Well, this area is the safest in the building, the most secure. Well, it used to be anyways. And take this, she says, handing me 4 pills. Painkillers. They won't work immediately, but they'll dull the worst of what you're feeling. Are these the best idea, I ask? Will they make me dizzy or out of sorts or something? All I get is in response is an annoyed and determined look. I want to trust Strickland's judgment, but I also want to be sane and fully lucid for, you know, in case I need to go shooty bang bang some more. Even though Barksdale does have that kind of down how much are the painkillers? See, I can't compare this to my hospital visit again, because I was like, ah, yes, painkillers to dull the pain. But I've never been in, like, these kinds of high trauma scenarios, or, like, high energy, adrenaline pumping, narrowly surviving kinds of situations. And when I was in the hospital, I was always woozy. I was, like, just napping constantly, and getting up at odd hours, and getting real shaky when it was just a touch too cold. It was weird. The hospital sheets were kind of thin, but I did manage to ask for a blanket. They give you blankets. But yeah, sometimes it would get so hot that I would, like, sweat all my moisture out, and other times I would be shaking really violently. And I was on, like, some, does Tylenol do much? Once I was out, it was, like, extra strength Tylenol, and then I weaned myself off. But, like, when I was in, they had me on the opioids, and I can't actually gauge how they made me feel. They just made things hurt less. It's... take the painkillers or don't take the painkillers? Take the painkillers. I'm a weenie. I'm gonna take the painkillers. Oh, that's an important choice! That's probably gonna make my fucking gun aim worse. I dry swallow the pills as she starts working on me. She slathers the wound with some sort of liquid that stings like crazy, and I gasp. Grin and bear it. Yelling out about it doesn't make things. You can just go, eh, but don't start screaming. Ready to stab me yet? Strickland asks. I'm fine. I hiss. I wince as she dabs at my eye, swollen from where Marcus kicked me. I grit my teeth in pain and try to catch my breath. The anticipation is the worst part. I'm relieved to find that it doesn't hurt as much as I feared. It's no picnic for sure, but compared to the fire-like pain in my wound, it's bearable. So you and Barksdale are the only survivors? Amy asks. It seems that way. Those that didn't disappear into thin air were killed by those things, Strickland says, nodding to the secured door. No one else made it? I know that's kind of redundant. Not that I've seen, Strickland says. If anyone else did make it, they're trapped out there with those things. I'm glad to see you. Where were you when it happened? Amy asks. I was in the microlab on level 2, Strickland replies. Park and O'Brien were in there with me, and they just disappeared, I guess. It looked like they were being stretched, distorted, and then there was a ball of white light, and they were gone. The ball of light just annihilated everything it touched. Would it leave a perfectly round hole? I ask, a light bulb turning on in my head. We saw some of those up at the logging site. That's probably the same phenomenon, Strickland replies. Amy looks like a child that's afraid to ask an adult for something. Finally, she asks, where did they go? We don't know, Strickland says. It could be an infinite number of different dimensions, or even some dimensions that merge and mix together. It could also be a place that exists between dimensions. Barksdale calls it the void. How's that possible? We don't know that just yet, Strickland says. Our understanding of space-time is evolving, especially when you start warping it like we have been doing. That point seems to be the end of the conversation, as both women fall quiet. I wince through the rest of Strickland's stitching, feeling the tug of my skin, but thankfully no more flowing blood. Finally, Strickland says, you're good to go. I slide my shirt back on, aware of the thick pad of gauze that Strickland applied to my shoulder. So, have you and Barksdale been able to contain all those creatures? Amy asks. Strickland appears shocked, clearly not the reaction Amy was expecting. Contain? Are you nuts? Do you not know what's happening? Amy's eyes widen in fearful confusion. What do you mean, what's happening, other than the initial experiment failure? The anomalies are becoming more numerous and further from the source, Strickland says. The casual humor in her voice is now gone. Further from the source? From the location of the original experiment, she says. The experiment caused the first doorway to open, but it set off a chain reaction. They're gaining momentum along geodesics emanating from this facility. It's like these pockets of exotic matter and negative energy that are letting those things in. What the hell does that mean? I ask. It means, Amy chimes in, that those doorways and monsters are starting to appear all over the facility. Maybe even the surface. Not yet, luckily, Strickland says, but the doorways will start appearing on the surface, and it won't stop there. The anomaly's reach can extend infinitely far, as we know. Those entities will appear on the surface in other states, other countries. Holy shit, I say. You mean the world is going to be overrun? The horror of the past few hours had made me ready to believe anything, but this is almost too much. Unfortunately, yes, Strickland says. My God, Amy says, stepping away. Isn't there anything we can do? There is a last resort, Strickland says, her eyes darting over to Barksdale at the back of the room. There's an emergency failsafe switch. What? Amy says. I never heard of that. Where? You weren't cleared for it, Strickland replies. And that switch, Amy says, is a way to stop this? Yes, Strickland says, seemingly uneasy with the conversation. What's it do? The switch is our eraser, she says. It destroys the entire facility and terminates any system or experiments that are being conducted. It also is an emergency shutdown for interdimensional travel. It puts an event horizon around the facility. Bro. The hell is that? I ask, incredulous. It's the perimeter of a black hole, she replies. The boundary inside which nothing can escape, not even light. But there's two problems with hitting the switch. So the first problem is we'd all be killed, sucked into a black hole before we'd have time to evacuate. The second reason, Strickland whispers, suddenly quiet, is that Barksdale won't allow it. If you make a black hole on the surface of the Earth, the entire planet is done for anyway. It will just consume the planet if you just, like, make a black hole directly connected to the mass of the Earth. What? Amy gasps. Why not? He wants to allow those things to flood the surface? Thousands, millions will die. Strickland puts her hands up, silencing Amy. They both peer over to the far side of the room where Barksdale has his back turned. I know. He says he doesn't care. He says he'll be happy to rid of the oversight so he can continue his work. The oversight? Amy almost screams, regaining control. Okay, he's, mad science mode, when Strickland gives her another look of warning. You mean our government? I ask. He's aware this could disrupt, even topple our government, and he doesn't care? Strickland sighs. Barksdale is, well, he's off the range right now. He's gone rogue, and he's armed. This comment makes me look towards the handgun I brought in with me. I'd nearly forgotten it in the last few moments. While Barksdale has his back turned, I take it in my hands and slide it behind me. Just in time, too, as Barksdale walks over from the back of the room to our side of the chamber. He gives Strickland a suspicious look before speaking to her. Is the civilian going to survive? He asks. Yes, he's stitched up and good to go, Strickland replies. That's great news. I'm sitting right here, I say sarcastically. You can actually speak to me, you know. Amy, it's quite nice to see that you have survived, he says. Were there any others? The aloof way this asshole is talking to us is getting under my skin. A guy named Marcus that works on the first level, from IT, Amy says. That's all I know for sure. Marcus Pabscott, Barksdale says. Where is he? I don't trust Barksdale now. He was killed by those things. I lied. I'm lying. I try not to let the eyes shift and give away my lie. Oh, Barksdale says. I see. Barksdale seems to think about something and looks directly at me. You're with the logging crew, aren't you? Remind me, how did you get in here again? We fell through a hole! Ah, right. We lost our primary power source when the experiment failed, Barksdale says. The experimental failure created those exotic matter pockets, that hole you fell into. And if there were enough of them, it may have opened a way into our facility. Depending on the power sources that were damaged, Barksdale continued, it could have also shut down the locking systems before backups kicked in. Everything is starting to make sense now. From the very start, it had seemed peculiar that we'd been so easily able to walk into a place like this. What caused the experiment to fail? Your crew hit one of our main power lines. We aren't sure exactly how, but we know that's what did it. Ah, fuck. You're trying to blame all this on me? I roar. The timing was unfortunate, Barksdale says. So what now? Now it's time to continue our work, Barksdale says calmly, turning away to the instruments on the near wall. You're insane! Fuck you! You want to keep your little toys to yourself, I say, my teeth clenched, and you're willing to unleash those monsters on the world to do it? Indeed, Barksdale says. I want to continue my work. Other researchers will eventually discover what we have, sure. But I want it to be me. Oh, fuck off! This is my laboratory. These are my experiments. The work I've led here will earn me my place in history. There won't be anyone left to tell it! History only exists so long as the thread of civilization continues. And quite frankly, I don't need to explain it to you. Up on the surface, they'll struggle to defend themselves since they won't know what they're dealing with. I have the necessary weapons. After a few months, who knows? Maybe I'll decide the world is ready for me to help them. And we'll go from there. Some megalomania, savior complex, but like, Strickland steps up directly beside me and whispers into my ear. I wouldn't push him, she says. He's usually very logical, but this whole thing has pushed him somewhere else. He's, well, off. He turns his back to us as he says this. Walking to the far side of the chamber, like we're some kind of distraction. Amy takes this opportunity to whisper to us, we need to hit that switch. It's the only option. What he's saying is murder, treason, genocide. She looks over to Strickland for support, trailing off, but Strickland looks at the ground, clearly torn. She won't look anyone in the eye, and makes an effort not to look at Barksdale. He seems distracted with whatever instruments he's studying on the far side of the room. The dreamlike quality I experienced earlier is wearing off. The painkillers seem to be losing their edge. Strickland finally whispers a response. Even if we decide that we want to hit that switch, Barksdale won't allow us. You can figure something out, right? If you guys could make a break for it? Strickland whispers. Where's the switch located? There's an elevator out in the hangar. Take it to the basement. The switch is at the end of a long tunnel. Strickland never finishes. Two things happen as once. As she speaks, her mouth stopping in mid-sentence. First, a loud booming noise rings out. Then the top of her head seems to explode. Amy screams out in surprise, and I jump back as Strickland's body collapses beside me. Behind her fallen body, Barksdale is holding his experimental rifle, and now he's pointing it at us. This game is a bit longer than I anticipated. Good shit, though. I wonder if Barksdale's even crazier than Marcus. He just shot a woman that worked for him to keep her quiet. Surely he won't have an issue with killing me. Now, Barksdale yells. No more whispering, no more secrets. You two will stay in here and get away from that door. If anyone whispers one more thing, I'll blow your heads off. My mind is racing to figure out a way to get through that secured door and out into the hangar. Beyond that, of course, there was the failsafe switch. Try to be a good actor as I wobble on my feet a bit. I stop, start forward, and start again, then wobble some more. Amy is apparently catching on because she's at my side in a second. She looks over to Barksdale and says, He's lost a lot of blood. Let me check his wounds really quick. For he dared to talk to me like that? He's been through a lot, she argues. He's clearly delusional. You can check him back here, Barksdale says. You have 30 seconds to get away from that door, or I will... I stretch out my acting skills and actually stumble to a knee. I make a show of trying to get to my feet and stand still for a moment. I'm okay, I say. I'm okay, I think I... As quickly as I can, I raise my gun and fire. I don't even take aim, just fire in Barksdale's general direction. Barksdale takes off running, and as my shot misses wide, he runs for cover to the back of the room. That's all we need. Amy also fires a shot to keep him under cover as we head for the door. Amy pushes a button and the door swings open. Barksdale will be on us in a second, so we dash out into the hangar, ready to defend ourselves. Wait. Here we go. The canisters of liquid nitrogen are a surprise tool that will help us later. Amy and I run as fast as we can through the rows of barrels. Barksdale comes charging out of the chamber almost immediately. As he steps onto the hangar floor, he starts shooting. Each shot sends a jolt of fear through me as I wait for a bullet to end my life. We need to get to the elevator on the far side of the room, Amy tells me. It leads down below to the switch. Sprint. Go, 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 go. Okay, she says. Go! I take a few shots in Barksdale's direction, succeeding in getting him to take cover and pause his stream of fire. We both make a run for it, knowing we only have seconds. Somehow I make it through the rows of barrels and get to the elevator's entrance. I turn back to allow Amy to enter first, but she isn't there. I look back to the barrels and see that she has fallen about halfway down the row. She doesn't appear to be hurt, but is paralyzed with fear, sitting motionlessly as Barksdale peppers the area with gunfire. Shoot. From a distance. I step back out and try to get a clean shot of Barksdale, but the angle is all wrong. I try my best to get off a shot, but it's not anywhere near him. Barksdale doesn't even flinch. I'll have to keep aiming from here. Fuck, I wasted a bullet. And then remember the contents of the barrels. One color has highly flammable fuel, the other contains liquid nitrogen. I'm no scientist, but I'm pretty sure liquid nitrogen is mostly harmless unless you have direct contact. One of those barrels gets shot and liquid nitrogen spills out. I'm fairly positive it will simply evaporate. Correct. I've seen it. That could create a cover of sorts, like a smoke cloud. Fuck, I've already forgotten too. I should have written that down. Get careless with his shooting and we could all die. think it was... Fuck, dude. Gray barrels. Someone's probably screaming at me. Either someone watching or someone who is watching this VOD in the future. Regardless, I don't have time to second guess myself. I take aim and pull the trigger, hitting a gray barrel 20 feet or so away from. There's nothing at first. Just as I wonder as hit an empty barrel, there's a deafening explosion of fire. Knocks me to my ass and I can hear Amy screaming. As flame and debris rain over me, my heart sinks. It wasn't the great barrels, I just shot a barrel full of fuel! I stand up, feeling the hairs on my arms have been singed slightly from the fire. I can see Amy out there. Her leg is on fire and she's doing everything they can to roll it out, but everywhere she rolls, there's more fire. Just as I'm about to run to help her, I hear a gunshot. I freeze for a moment, assuming the shot is meant for me. But as I watch, a large red hole blooms in Amy's back. As she topples over, I glance up to see Barksdale with his gun, proud of his kill. Sorrow and fury boil up within me, but I have to keep it under control. I have to get to that switch. With Amy gone, there's nothing else for me to do here. I turn away from the hangar and head to the elevator. My nerves are drenched in fear and adrenaline. When I reach out to press the call button on the elevator, it feels like I'm watching someone else do it. I step inside and the doors close. The motors on the elevator sound like dying dogs. I'm gonna go refill my water thing. Like, my voice is going. Hello? 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 Hello, I'm back. I found my Ricola throat drops too, so I'll have one of those after the stream. Or maybe during the stream, who knows? But first, water. As the elevator slides down, the light from the flames gives way to complete blackness. And now I'm on my own. I am going with the... I'm just gonna pop one in. Throat lozenge. I lose track of how long the elevator descends. It's hard to tell due to the lack of lighting, but it must go on for another 500 feet underground. The elevator comes to a stop with a shuddering clang, and I waste no time exiting. The tunnel stretches out with sparse white bulbs lighting the way. Most of the wall is made of raw earth and rock, but there are boards and concrete slabs in areas to use to reinforce the tunnel. I see a warning sign posted on the wall. I want to read it, but there's not much time. It might be useful. Authorized personnel only beyond this point. Trespassers will be prosecuted. Full state of the law. Absolutely no exceptions. Waste of my time. Effects of the painkillers again. My head feels like a balloon and my balance is off kilter. I look up, and then when I see that the tunnel ceiling is less than 6 inches over my head, claustrophobia freezes me for a second. Still, it's much better than facing the monsters up above me. I wonder, then, walking through the darkness, where they came from. Is the portal still open? The bulbs do little to thwart the darkness. I hold the gun in one hand and reach out to touch the wall with the other. Feeling the wall under my palm anchors me to reality, to sanity. I am not in some boundless abyss, but still in the real world. For a little while longer, at least. I recognize that I'm marching to my end. As much as I wish I weren't, it's not surprising. From the moment I saw what those creatures could do to time and space, at least a part of me knew that death was inevitable. Before I have time to wonder whether my family will really miss me, I see a light ahead. It's nothing more than a speck of blue light, but in the darkness of a tunnel, it's like a lighthouse on a stormy sea. I slog forward, my eyes straining to focus on that little light ahead. From somewhere ahead, I start to hear something that sounds like water. It's trickling, lightly, like a leaky faucet. And behind that, there's something that sounds like wind. A light breeze through an open field, and a voice. Anywhere else, the sounds would have been pleasant, but here in the blackness of the tunnel, they're menacing. I'm not going to speak up. I don't make a sound, instead trying to make sense of what's going on around me. I cock my head, trying to concentrate, and then realize that I can see the tunnel walls now. This is odd, as I wasn't able to see them a few seconds ago. This is different from the blue light at the end of the tunnel. It's then that I see a slight shimmering in the air. It looks like the foggy mirror steamed over after a shower. And it's moving, dancing in the air like some abstract firefly. It's not menacing like the creatures, so that threat is null. It's peaceful, serene. I watch as this shimmer branches out and becomes 2, then 3, then 4. They snake out in different directions, tracing the tunnel walls. Are these shimmers the doors to another dimension that Strickland was talking about? Suddenly, I'm surrounded by light, above and below me, and I realize there's no avoiding it. The question is, how am I going through? Feet first. Unable to resist, I step forward to where the tunnel wall should be. When I do, the shimmering lights branch out even more before connecting in one perfect circular form. They're hypnotizing, so much that I don't realize that the tunnel walls are vanishing. I feel like something like wind and a brief electrical pulse pass through me as the lights take me. There's then a very gentle pushing sensation, and I somehow know that I am being expelled. I've passed through something. Maybe the lights? Maybe the tunnel walls? I don't know. But the shimmering lights fade a bit. Still dancing in the air, but no longer large and branching out. And as my eyes adjust, I see right away that I am no longer standing in that dark tunnel far beneath the hangar. I have no idea where I am. I'm just somewhere else. And I'm terrified. Hell yeah, alien dimensions. Let's go, boys. We're in ultra space now. The ground I land on looks like hot coals. There are dips and many cliffs breaking the landscape ahead of me. There's a wash of orange and blue overhead and a sky that makes no sense. It's both beautiful and terrifying at once. A scattering of stars overhead, and they all seem to be breathing, pulsing with a gentle energy, as if alive. I can't tell if there are clouds in this sky because everything about it, from the colors to the trembling horizon line, seems to be amorphous. Everything is knitted together, living. I stare a moment longer and I can swear I feel the sky breathing. Far off to my right, I see what looks to be a plume of fire, small yet bright, with no source of fuel. It looks as if the ground itself is creating the flame. Several more of these flames dot the landscape further out. The air is thick and muggy. This Ricola drop is already helping my throat. That's good. Because it looks like I'll need to narrate for a while yet. Thick and muggy, then I realize something horrible. I don't know if what I'm breathing here resembles air at all. In a place like this, one possible beauty but also very stark horror, my mind doesn't know what to do. A wave of nausea comes over me and I think I might be sick. I'm not sure if it would be better to fight it or to give in. The white light that brought me here is nowhere to be found. Is anyone here? Is there any way to escape? Look around. I continue to look out at this nightmarish landscape and see a few other unexplainable oddities. There are billowing flames in the distance, not like a volcano or explosions, just some kind of slow heat crawling upwards that defies reality. This analogy seems even more fitting when I see the thin, vein-like roots of the fire twisting into the ground and then darting back out in all directions. I get that sick feeling again in my gut and realize my mind just needs something to focus on. It's then I hear a voice. It's faint, distant. I turn it and hear it coming out of one of the massive crevices along the ground. Inside of that crack, about 10 feet down, a very pale man lies on a ledge. He's human, but he looks close to death. He's in the center of a large pool of blood, and his left leg has been twisted and torn in a unnatural way. As I walk to the ledge, he looks up and sees me. Help me, please. His eyes are wide, and although everything about him speaks of weakness, is close to death or insanity or both. What is this place? I don't know, but we're outside of our home galaxy, maybe, possibly even our home universe. Please help. I want to know more, but it seems cruel to steal what looks like his last breath just to answer my questions. I'd love to, I respond, but I don't know where the hell I am or how to get back home. The light. It's a doorway. It might take you back to the facility. Where did it go? They come and go. They'll be back. Please help me. I desperately want to help, but there's no way I can reach him. His ledge is too far away above the pools of fire. I don't think I can get to you, I say. Oh, that's not what I mean, he replies. His eyes are on the handgun that I almost forgot I'm still holding. I realize what he wants and I shake my head. I can't do that. Please, he pleads. Those things, they have the others that came here with me. I got dropped along the way. They'll be back. They'll be back and they'll kill me. That, he says again, indicating the gun. That will be quicker. Less painful. I can't, I repeat. Please, look at my damn leg. I'm dead anyway. I'm about to refuse him again when I hear an all too familiar static sound from out of another crevice behind him. I hear another of those shrill noises and then watch as one of those monsters materializes out of the neighboring crevice. 2 more come out after it, then a third, then 5, then 10. Soon I lose count as what was just a few turns into a flood. But suddenly I understand the man's reasoning. A bullet would be a mercy. I check the gun and see that I only have 1 round left. I can use it on this guy, but I may need it for myself later. From beside me, the man pleads again. My God, he says, a waver of lunacy in his voice. Please. I know I went into heroics mode, but, like, I don't think I can be a hero anymore. So I'm saving that bullet for myself. I'm in a situation where I have to keep this 1 bullet. I can't waste it on him. He whimpers a bit and I look away, unable to see that misery on his face. Behind him, I hear a mix between a scream. I hear him give a mix between a scream mixed with the high-pitched noises of the army of creatures. Their volume rises as he lets out cry after cry. I clench my teeth as the torture continues. Then suddenly his voice is silenced and only the 6 static sounds remain. That's when I see the shimmers wavering to my right, in the direction I originally came from. I look back to the monster and see that they have now noticed me. Some of them begin floating up the walls of the crevice. There are less than 10 feet separating us. The shimmers of white light are within arm's reach, its movements reminding me of a fish in an aquarium. I reach out and feel myself accepted by them again. I feel the sensation of wind and wait for the feeling of being pushed out, back to the tunnel in the facility. But it doesn't come this time. This time I feel something else. I feel a tugging sensation that seems to want to drag me in all directions at once. As the world goes dark, I realize that I am somewhere else, and it is not the darkness of a tunnel. This is the darkness of a total void. There is darkness around me everywhere. Nothingness. I feel nothing under my feet. Nothing to my sides. Can't touch or sense anything at all. I don't even know which way is up or down. It's as though I am all that exists. I don't even know which way is up or down. No, I already read that. And as I remain here, I just hear silence. Not even the sound of my heartbeat. The blackness is so deep that I can't distinguish between my thoughts and what is real. I hear screaming. I can't tell if it's someone else. My mind screaming to fill this void. Luckily, I have a mouth, and I must scream. I hear my own shout in my head, but it doesn't seem to travel out into the abyss. It bounces around in my head endlessly, like an echo down a long, ancient corridor. I assume this is the place that Strickland referred to, the place between dimensions. This darkness could consume me if it wanted to. I'll try to whittle myself out of it, have those shimmering lights spit me out, but it isn't happening. At this point, my mind starts to hallucinate. Or at least I think it does. Are they visions? My mind playing tricks on me? I can't tell. All I can do is watch. I see the logging site, and Tony's leg still pinned under the dozer. I feel a pang of regret that I left him to such a state. I see myself talking to Dennis. He looks distraught as I tell him that Tony is gone. And the scene rearranges itself and I'm standing between Dennis and Marcus's gun. It changes again and the shape of Marcus' body appears in front of me, half devoured, a bullet through his head. In my mind, I'm sobbing as I watch Dennis get torn apart by those monsters all over again, and I just stood by and watched. I try to let out a scream as I watch myself shoot the wrong barrel, blowing Amy to hell, but there's still no sound. And just when I feel like I can't take any more of this, I see the man in that strange world, begging for death. I watch as he's distorted and torn by those beasts. All of these things are flooding my mind, and it feels like my brain is vomiting. Yet in the midst of it all, I see what's really important. Switch. In my mind's eye, I see that glowing light in the tunnel and the one far ahead, small and distant. I focus my mind on the tunnel and the image of that flickering light. The mental effort so strong that it is nearly a physical motion. I make myself envision that little light in the tunnel as if it were right there in front of me. With that, I feel the wind again, a light breeze that seems to come from everywhere. And then with a relief that I can only imagine feels like death, I move forward. I'm ejected from the void, and I am suddenly standing in the tunnel again. I let out a wail of triumph that turns into a bout of weeping. The weeping only intensifies when I see that light up ahead, a flickering blue light. Somewhere behind me I hear a crackling noise. Monsters from that other place, they have come through. But not at the same time. They've gone down the tunnel and up the other way in search of me. And now because of my crying, they knew I was here. I feel like I can listen to get a better read on where they are, or I can just make a break for it. I don't even bother looking back. There's no time. Instead, I run with all my might straight ahead, focus on that little blue light ahead of me. As I run, I see a different light, a white one, flickering in my peripheral vision. It's another of those shimmers that goes to other worlds. It seems they are appearing and disappearing with more frequency now. Strickland was right. These things could reach the surface soon, unleashing more monsters. This thought makes me refocus on the blue light, this man-made light, the switch. The blue light gets closer, and as it does, I can make out a square shape around it. This has to be it. The familiar static scream of the monsters is much closer now. I have to be quick. I grip the gun tightly, knowing I only have one bullet remaining. The bullet that man in the other world had wanted me to use to end his life. I run ahead into the darkness, my eyes locked on a switch that I assume is going to kill not only the creatures, but myself as well. As I approach, I see the lever. It's covered by a glass box that I will need to break. God, imagine if I didn't have the bullet! The blue light is directly beneath this, highlighting a series of tubes and wires that snake into the inner workings of the device. In the middle is blackness. Not like a darkly colored part of the machine, but just a hole in reality. Looks like some sort of illusion. All the while, I can hear the static of the creatures coming dangerously close now. I have no idea how much time I have. Smash the glass. I drop out the stock of the gun and smash through the glass box that houses the lever. The glass shattering is like music to my ears. I reach out for the lever, my hand grasping it. Oh, excuse me. Without warning, I feel immense pain coursing through my body. It feels like fire racing down my back, causing me to fall to one knee in agony. There's only one of them that I can see. It blasts horrible static noise at me as I ready my gun. One bullet left. Very glad I didn't put that poor man in that other place out of his misery. I take aim and fire, my accuracy rewarded with a spew of white gas from the creature's core. Backs away. In defense or annoyance, I'm not sure. I start to turn back to the switch when I hear a second creature come gliding up behind me. Its tentacles melt into me and I scream. I can't help it. I sound like a wild animal. I try to keep fending them off, or I can go for broke and just focus on the lever. Creatures be damned. Lever. I put all of my strength into my legs. The moment the monster in front of me draws back its eel-like arms to grab me, I pivot backwards. My back strikes the machine, sending agony rocketing through my body. I'm so thankful I broke the glass before this moment, before the coming violence. I stretch out and grab the lever. With one last desperate scream that shreds my voice, I jam it down. The tunnel is suddenly filled with a flash of intense darkness. It expands from the switch, swallowing the matter around it. First, I'm sure this is the end of me. I expect the darkness to consume me, followed by death. But then another shimmer of dancing white light appears next to me. There are more of those streams of light, rips in space like the ones previously sent me to that other ungodly world in the void. With nothing else to do but die, I try to escape into the shimmer. When that stream of light envelops me, the expanding darkness of the switch is gone, and I feel a huge push. Ooh, space. My body feels stretched, collapsing, like I'm falling from all directions at once. The world goes white, and then there are pinpoints of stars everywhere. One of them breezes directly by my right, and I see something that looks like a spiral galaxy distorted in its folds. To my right, I see an endless stretch of stars and gas clouds, forming some galactic architecture. Beyond this immeasurable beauty, I notice something. I'm seeing the same star patterns over and over. They are repeating like reflections in a mirror. These different versions of the same galaxies? The same realities? To my left, I see a calm blue world and I can just barely make out trees. Familiar Kentucky trees that I've been around for the last few weeks. To my right, I see a copy, an orange world, and there are trees there as well. But something is strange, disturbing. If I zoom by, I'm not sure how much control I have in this unusual place. But if I can direct myself, it's worth trying. Can't remember if the orange world is like Earth after those creatures have invaded, or if it's like just a horrible alternate Earth that's like not very good for human life. I'm gonna do blue. I try to focus my mind on heading towards the blue world, not knowing what to expect. My breath escapes me for a moment. Everything is dark and peaceful, and nothing hurts. With breath back inside my body, I gasp and open my eyes. I'm back. Back at the logging site. How? I'm not even sure. The shimmers react with the implosion of the switch? Some other accident? I have no idea. I sit up right away and become instantly dizzy. I wonder if I am somehow back in time, before we found the facility, but what happens next made me realize that can't be true. There's a tremor in the ground. Somewhere off in the distance, I hear a metallic groan. The buried facility. It's being ripped apart under the ground by the activation of the switch. I hear trees splintering and popping all around me, and then there's a muffled sound of an implosion. A huge group of trees is falling, followed by a massive plume of dust and debris. There's no way Barksdale survived. Good riddance. I looked in the direction where I found Dennis sitting, before this all started. Then I remember that he's gone, along with Amy. I'm still not sure how I got out of that facility alive, but I suppose is the most important thing. Alone, but alive. It's then that I look up and notice the sky. The sky is beautiful and familiar, unobstructed by the trees that had been standing several minutes ago. I exhale and let my body start to relax. It's finally over. I'm not sure how long it will take me to get back to some semblance of a life, but I know one thing for sure. Any day above ground is going to be a good day. The end. Well, we destroyed the facility. We contained the creatures. We contained the extra-dimensional creatures. We made it back to our own reality, or at least a semblance of our own reality. A habitable Earth. Good ending. Blue world and went home. 83% of players. Yeah, the blue world, yep, that's just home. That's Earth. And I wanted for this run through to be, I wanted it to be kind to Roger. I wanted him to make it out alive and make it home. Well, lads, happy Halloween. I hope you enjoyed that little story time. Little is subjective. It's been 3 hours. But yeah, that was Buried, an interactive story. It's only like $2 or $3 on Steam if you want to play it for yourself. I'm not sure if I want to do another run through on stream, because this did wear out my voice a lot, and I should probably just take better care of my voice and do more like vocal training so that I'm not completely blowing my larynx out every time I try to do like a story time of some sorts. Whenever I like talk a lot, I'll definitely like, my voice just gets tired after a while because I don't always talk a lot. Usually talk more on stream than I do anywhere else. But yeah, that was Buried. Happy Halloween. I hope you enjoyed the story. I am going to go reheat myself a slice of pizza and drink some more water. Enjoy your candy, nerds!
It was fun. Okay, good night. Good night. Good night.